think that if you're vulnerable for just 1 second, that it's all gonna come crashing down?
Oh my god, my baby's drowning!
I don't think I want to be implicated in this. DJ, stick it in!
All you guys, you're like all I have. We're family. That means something to me.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our podcast, my podcast, The Real Thesis. I'm your host, Shalini, and I am also joined by Liana. Liana, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Liana. I am a scientist, a writer, and a major nerd. I also love analyzing media. I have an English minor, but I like to just do this in my free time. I have been writing most of my life, and so um, write. I have been analyzing stories and how they work and why they work and what are they doing for many, many years. This is like my hobby that takes over most of my life at this point. As I said, I'm also a writer. You can find me on Tumblr and Medium.com at Liana Writes 350. But if not, you can find me lurking around in different places, just talking about media and screaming about it a lot, including Pride and Prejudice.
Yes, you're a huge Pride and Prejudice fan. And then also, yeah, you do this a lot. You've written a lot of like analytical pieces on different art forms. And yeah, you've always write really good pieces. So I'm excited to have you. You're also a huge Pride and Prejudice fan. And today we are talking about Fire Island, which is what I'm excited to, which is why we brought you on, because you definitely know Pride and Prejudice. So yes, talking about that today. Yeah, so without any further ado, let's dive in. So we are discussing the film Fire Island. Sadly, there's two Fire Islands that came out. We're talking about the one that is a Pride and Prejudice adaptation that came out in 2022 and is currently streaming on Hulu. It was directed by Andrew Ahn, who has a film currently in theaters, The Wedding Banquet. He also directed Spa Night and Driveaways. And this film was written by Joel Kim Booster, who is the main character in the film. And it was just such a very lovely story. And I like that he brings his experience really to this film. He is a comedian and he has worked on shows like Big Mouth and the other two. The film stars him, Bowen Yang, Conrad Ricamora, James Scully, Zane Phillips, Margaret Cho, Torian Miller, Matt Chapman, and Tomas Matos. And the film it was released in 2022 and it had like really like critical success. I think a lot of people loved it. It was just such a refreshing story. It was a refreshing adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, and it was just a refreshing story and a portrayal, I think, of just this community and especially Joel's experience being an Asian man and a gay man. It has 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is just a really wonderful rating. And yeah, there's just a lot of writings that talk about just the nuanced take on this film. And that's something that we're going to jump into for the most part, is how this film is just a very intelligent and well done adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. Yeah, so shall we jump in?
Yeah, would love to. I absolutely adored this movie. I saw it, just giving my own 2 cents here. I loved it. I've seen it multiple times. I need so many more movies from Joel Kim Booster. Like, he was fantastic at writing it and also performing in it. Everyone was just wonderful. And it is known in the Pride and Prejudice like fan base, but I feel like it's still kind of a relatively unknown movie in general, and I just want more people to know about it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't feel like I knew, like you told me about it, but I don't know too many people who know about it. And I'm just like, it's such an intelligent story and it's so well written. And I wish more people would write about it. Another thing that I like about the director too is that all of his movies that he's done has like a predominantly Asian cast. And I just feel like that was a really refreshing aspect of it too. And yeah.
I just saw his movie, The Wedding Banquet, that you said was in theaters right now. And like, it was so beautiful because I was like, this is the most realistic and accurate take on queer people in film that I've seen. Like, I was like, yep, I know these people. Like, they're very, like, it was just so natural. And I think even with Fire Island, like, these are real people. They felt lived in. They're very just natural. They're just living their lives. And you could see the love and their hopes and dreams through the movie and through the filmmaking of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny because when I first saw the film, like I actually just enjoyed it as a story. And I think at some point I would have figured out that it was a Pride and Prejudice adaptation, but like I don't know if I would have figured it out beyond someone telling me that it was an adaptation because it was just such a like well-told story and a very beautifully filmed story. But I'm not sure I would have like known that because it's just a good story. Um,
And I think that's the thing. Like, I don't know if he necessarily set out to write an adaptation. He was saying, I think he took the model and being like, hey, this is like, say, a model of a story, and wrote his own story. And I was just telling you about this, that I was like, it's a sweet and it's a funny and charming rom-com, and it's a beautiful take. And you can definitely see like his own experiences as being a gay Asian man, gay Asian American man in this predominantly white and classist society that's on Fire Island, which we'll get more into. But like ultimately, it's also, even though he wasn't trying to make an adaptation straightforward, like it's a really smart adaptation. It is so cleverly like translates not only like scenes, characters, but also themes. And it translates ideas. It translates like Jane Austen's wit, her commentary on love, like it is so incredibly intelligent, and it is a beautiful example of adaptations. And I want more people to know about it and go see it because it needs more love. Joel Kim Booster needs more love. And like I said, I need more movies, so I need more people to go watch him.
I want to talk about like Pride and Prejudice and your love, like when you first read Pride and Prejudice and how it resonated with you when you first read it.
I started reading it because it was one of those free books on your e-reader, like on your phone. So like when iPhones were just coming in, like it was one of those free books. And I was like, sure, I've heard that this is a classic. And within the first few chapters, I was like, this is so funny. Like it is, because it's about these family, and the Bennet family is very chaotic. And it's also a love story. And I was like, oh, I loved a love story. And so since high school, I have loved this. I have admittedly not seen all the adaptations yet. I will, but have definitely seen stuff like the 2005 one multiple times. I love the Lizzie Bennet Diaries. That is like the other top tier adaptation that I will go on forever about, and I hope we get to talk about it here. And I actually just read this book recently. I read it annotated version, which was so much fun, and really gets a good in-depth look at it. So, and then in the meantime, I'm just analyzing the story a lot. So it's a story I'm very familiar with. Would you like me to give a summary?
Yeah.
Okay. So this story takes place in the Regency era, which is like the 1810s. And it follows this family, the Bennets, and it's a mother and father and five daughters. And the start of the story is that this rich, handsome single man moves into town. And in this time period, the women literally had no means to take care of themselves. Like they, and especially with the family full of five daughters, there's no one to take care of them when the father passes away. So it's extremely important that these daughters marry well. But a part of that also story is they also want love. So it's a bit of a going back and forth between like, do you marry for money? Do you marry for love? Anyway, so rich, handsome man named Mr. Bingley comes in, and it is he falls in love with the oldest daughter, and the second daughter, who is our main character, Elizabeth Bennet, hates his friend, who is no, this is his. Is it okay if I go into this much stuff? Okay. His friend, Mr. Darcy, is kind of a snob, and he kind of gives Elizabeth reasons to hate him. And so you have one love story, you have two people hate each other, and over the course of the story, it is both uh the oldest daughter Jane and Mr. Bingley, they fall in love, but then they break up, and how are they going to get back together? But it's also about Elizabeth and Darcy and how they start with entirely different opinions on each other and very much wrong perceptions of each other, and how they overcome those perceptions to fall in love. So it's kind of a dual love story going on here.
I really like that because I don't think people really realize that it's a dual love story. Like the focus is so much on the Lizzie Darcy dynamic that I think people forget that it's actually told through the entire framework of Jane and Mr. Bingley's love story and other love stories that happen at the same time.
There's other stuff, there's other love stories that happen, or maybe not love stories, but marriage stories.
Yeah.
And it is actually very similar to Because like what happens in the story is that Elizabeth and Darcy are kind of in the background. Like everyone's so focused on Jane and Mr. Bingley that by the end of it, Lizzie and Darcy are like, we love each other. And everyone's like, really? Um, and it's very similar to Much Ado About Nothing, which is you have the two characters, I forget their names, who are like the perfect love story, and then you have Beatrice and Benedict who hate each other. And we typically in a lot of these stories at that time, especially, they would follow the really romantic story, and especially, and I'll get more into like the writing at the time, but like it would follow the lovely pair, the good couple, and all. And it was a little bit unusual to follow the couple who's kind of sassy and kind of hate each other and kind of have problems. Like in of itself, it is a subversion. Um, the other thing, sorry, I'm going off on a
No,
tangent.
go
We'll
for
get
it.
back to our
I love
point.
this. No, it's all good.
The other thing about it is that people always say that Pride and Prejudice is the original enemies to lovers, and that's not necessarily true. Which I will kind of get into a little bit later, but it's not necessarily the enemies to lovers, especially not what we see today, where it's like, oh, you're so hot, but I hate you. Like it's not that kind of
Yeah.
story. It is genuinely these two people growing and changing because of each other, and then they find out they're like, oh, actually, we are compatible with each other, and
Yeah.
so that's why it's partly why it's the story that lasts.
Yeah. I love that you say that because Pride and Prejudice was always like, it was always presented to me as an enemy to lover story.
Mm-hmm.
And, I will say that I, like my background with Jane Austen in particular is that I was such an Anglophile in college. So actually my major was English, but I had a focus in British literature prior to the early 1900s. So basically I studied everything from like Shakespeare to like 1920s, specifically British literature. So I've read like probably 3 or 4 of Austen's books, but I had never read Pride and Prejudice. And my only understanding of it is through the films. Um, or Spark Notes. I have like Spark Noted it. But like, yeah, I was always presented in this like really like not inauthentic, but it was kind of presented as like this enemies to lover story. And I feel like a lot of the actual themes and the point of the book has been watered down through time or through modern perceptions of it, and especially through like adaptations. And I think that really like turned me off from the story. And I think actually, one of the reasons Fire Island works so well, I mean, it works so well because it's just such a great story on its own, but I think it's like a very true like adaptation. Like it really takes these ideas that are present in Pride and Prejudice and even like the voice and the narration and the humor and stuff. And I think it like really like adapts it very well. Yeah. So jumping into Fire Island, which are you ready to jump into?
Yes.
Okay, I can't give as deep of a analysis on Fire Island. But basically, Fire Island follows a group of friends who I'm going to call the sisters because I always kind of refer to them as a family.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a group of friends who are going out to Fire Island to celebrate, basically just to have a summer break. But it's also like the time of year where everybody's going to the Fire Island Pines, which is like a gay community, and just hanging out, having fun. And during this time, our main character, we have 2 main characters, Noah and Howie. Howie is kind of at this place in his life where he's just kind of ready for love, and just wanting to have a deeper connection with someone. And Noah is just someone who's so opposed to like the heteronormative ideas around like relationships and marriage and stuff. And it's basically like they get to this island and Howie starts to find a connection to this guy, Charlie. And Noah promises Howie that he will help him hook up with someone on the island, and Noah will not hook up with anybody until Howie hooks up with somebody. So basically, Noah's trying to help his friend Howie get with Charlie, and in that, he's kind of coming up against Charlie's friend Will, who, Will is kind of antagonizing force in a way that Noah perceives Will to be the like someone who's stopping Charlie from getting with Howie. And it's kind of like how all of these personalities intermesh, and basically they're week. It only takes place on a week in Fire Island, and it's about their time together and how these couples interact over different experiences. But I will say the story is also very much about the bonds and like found family. within this gay community, but specifically within these five friends and like the family that they have created, even though they're not blood related. And I thought that was just such a very beautiful theme, but we're going to get into that. Um, yeah, not as deep, but I say now's a good time to jump into the story and the characters.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's really interesting. There's a couple of ways in which they translate the stakes into modern day because like in the say Pride and Prejudice, as I said, women needed to get married in order to be able to live. Like they will otherwise have no money. Um, in this story, it's hooking up. And hooking up does not have anywhere near that financial stakes involved, but it this way that it's like if Howie doesn't hook up, Noah doesn't get to hook up. And so it gives a sense of urgency for himself and also for his friend. But the hooking up means something more. It's not just that he's trying to get his friend laid. It's about he sees that his friend is sad and he's like, I know that sex makes me feel great. I want Howie to feel great. And it is going back to what you're saying about a found family and love that like it is this is how he's trying to show love to his friend and being like, hey, I want you to feel beautiful. I want you to feel powerful. I'm going to get you laid. And it's an emotional state.
I like what you said that like he puts his needs first and that it's like a self-created stake, but he's doing it from a place of caring about Howie and caring about their friendship and realizing like, you know, when we're introduced to Howie, he says that he's lonely and he's like, I feel existentially lonely. And, you know, we get a bit of context, like Howie has moved to the West Coast for a new job. So he's not probably not near a lot of his friends. He's like still new to the cities. And he's also at some point you learn that he's 30 and he's never had a boyfriend. So like, and he's a romantic. So it's not that like hooking up doesn't fill him up the same way it does to Noah. And yeah, like I love when he said, I'm existentially lonely because it's like that's what Noah sees as pain and that's what Noah's trying to fix and help. And like you said, like to Noah, that's hooking up and it works for Noah because like Noah doesn't believe in like all of these dating and romantic stuff like that. He's not interested in that. So to him, hooking up makes him feel good. So he's like, all right, like if you can hook up with somebody, it'll help you feel better.
I like what you said that it's like a self-made stake because sometimes that's one of the more interesting stakes that you can give a character. Like you always want to have a character have a want. And a story is very boring when the character doesn't want anything. And his want is very clear. But it being self-imposed also shows us something about his character, which is that he hears Howie having this existential loneliness and Noah's solution to existential loneliness that he probably also feels is to close off and to not let anyone in and to always remain casual and not be in relationships. And that way, he's never going to get hurt and he's never going to feel that emptiness that another person could give him or not give him. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the house because so Erin is like the Mrs. Bennet of the story. And I think that's it's amazing. Margaret Cho is hilarious, phenomenal. She is an icon for the Asian American community, and she's also part of the queer community, which I did not know about. So she's just wonderful. I'm so happy she's in this movie. But I love that they do translate the financial struggles in that way, that they're going to lose the house. And even though it's not connected to their relationships, it is that same sense of urgency about being like, hey, our time together as a family is coming to an end. And as you said, like, they have to make the most of it. I do want to talk more about Fire Island in just a second, but I was also going to say that one of the beginnings, I think in one of the first scenes, they say that they're like, Noah says, like, we're poor, but we're like, we can't buy property poor. And I think that was both very accurate to the generation. Yeah.
I had that note too, that he's like, yeah, he's like, we're poor in that we'll never own property ever. And I'm like, that's a great way to like translate it into the current millennial Gen Z experience, which is like, I'll never own property. But it goes directly to the stakes in the book, which is like the girls, when their father passes, they lose their house. So they have to have security. Like they lose the land.
Exactly. And that's why this house, they've been coming to this house and to Erin's like home for so many years. Like, and she got it like in a windfall, more or less. And so it's like, it's so special and it sucks that they're going to lose it because like, yeah, they're never going to have something like this again. But then we're going to see later on other people own property and own houses and it's a subtle reinforcement of the class structures that are at play here.
Yeah. But another thing they note is like in the opening scene, they're dragging their suitcases from the boat to the house. And it's also kind of like showing you like the more richer houses are right on the beach. And they're like walking very far to get to this house. And it's just kind of showing you like, again, the social status. Like, yeah, she has a house, but it's still further away. It's not one of the nicer houses.
It's not like a beachfront house.
Yeah.
And like it's so many subtle ways to communicate their class and also compare it later on. Which I kind of, it's okay if we talk a little bit about Fire Island as a place right now, just to give context to what we're saying here. So Fire Island is like, I believe, an island off of Long Island, if I'm correct, in New York. It is historically Fire Island, there's two towns within the island that are historically gay and lesbian communities, and it's been that way since like the 1920s, 1930s. People would flock there, especially during the summer, which is what these characters are doing. It became a place where the gay community could live and express themselves freely without having that heteronormative society all around them. So it is an extremely sacred place. I feel like sacred is the best word for it. It is a sacred place of love and community and expression and freedom of self, and like lots of stuff goes on. It's a beautiful town. It's a beautiful, like, as you can see in the movie, it's a lot of like beachfront and beaches and like places to go and clubs, and there's a lot of hooking up and there's drugs and there's matchmaking and all sorts of stuff. But it's a place solely for the gay community, and that's also a really cool thing about the movie is there is no straight people in the movie.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting that they it's set on Fire Island because it's a closed setting where they're totally absent from like any heterosexual influence or judgment as well.
Yeah. It's so refreshing to have a story that's not about coming out, that's not about other people's judgments. It is entirely within the gay community. And then we get to look at the gay community and their own class structures, which it's been talked about in the movie, but also people writing about Fire Island have also talked about it, that there is a class structure based on race, based on masculinity, cisgenderness, and money. And that is a story that's going to come in, plays a really important part in this story about gay Asian men who are not that rich.
Yeah. I think, it's very, again, like Fire Island was such a genius setting to like talk about this dynamic. Because of that, like you said, historically, it is like a very white, richer place to people go to, you know, within the gay community, but still like more white, more richer. And there's still a lot of people who just didn't feel welcome there or didn't feel like that was their scene. And so, yeah, it was a great setting.
Yeah. And now we can segue into characters, which is the movie starts off. So Noah meets his sisters on the boat on the ferry to Fire Island. And the first things that they're talking about, so quoting, they bring up the point that a lot of gay men have the dating role of no fats, no femmes, no Asians. Already the story is setting up that there is biases, that there's prejudice, that there's structures here.
It was at that point that I realized, like, oh, there's actually a very diverse group of, you know, people, and I actually didn't quite realize it at that point. And immediately, it's brought up in the context of Noah taking his shirt off, and in that moment, Noah is like, "I know I'm a class traitor." Like it's a very like visual way of showing you like, here you have a very diverse group of people. You know, I think only, you know, Matt Chapman is like the white person in the group, but like they all kind of don't fit for whatever reason. But then you also have Noah's character who is taking his shirt off, being like, I don't care. I don't care what you think. I don't care about this class system. So he's already placing himself outside of the way the world is telling him how it works.
He's outside the world, also outside his family's opinion in a way, almost.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, he says he doesn't care, but he does because he's extremely fit. And fitness is one of the things that which the community is judging each other on. So that's what he means by class traitor, is he's like, yeah, I do care, even though he will never admit it.
Yeah.
Whereas Howie has accepted that he is not the ideal beauty standard for their community. And that is in large part contributing to his loneliness, is because he doesn't feel desirable or attractive to gay men and other people that he has meets. And if I can bring back an adaptation point, because Howie is the Jane character from the book. Jane is the most beautiful woman in all of the town. She's the most beautiful in the
Oh.
family. But here they flip it here where he isn't, they're conventionally attractive. And I think almost in a way, like Jane's beauties, I like singled her out, like him by not being the conventionally attractive singles him out as well. And
Yeah.
also, Jane is someone who is really reserved. She didn't really express, that was part of her problem, the things that she had to, that led to her whole story is that like she didn't express that she liked Mr. Bingley, whereas Howie is very open about his vulnerability. He wants love. He's not afraid of that. He's not afraid of getting hurt. He's not afraid to ask for romance and love in his life. And that makes him stick out in this week, which is going to be mostly about hooking up and mostly about meeting strangers. Like it makes him feel lonely and makes him feel more isolated.
Something that I particularly liked too, that again, like the story really, really draws from like Joel Kim Booster's experience in being Asian and stuff, but being gay. But I love that he establishes that him and Howie are best friends because they have a deep connection and also because they're Asian. But I was like, it plays on both of that. Like it's not just like, oh, we're Asian because we're best friend or best friends because we're
Yeah.
Asian. It's really like, no, they actually like see each other and care about each other. And the fact that they can relate on that level too is nice. And I think
Yeah.
they like a lot of these lines are just very simple, glossed over lines in the story, but they are good points.
Yeah, you can definitely see that there's such a deeper love and deeper tenderness between the two of them than with the other sisters. And they love the other sisters, but like they emotionally, most of the time, and definitely intellectually understand each other. And it's never really stayed out right, but I do think that part of their getting understand each other is that they both have had that experience of being Asian American and gay, and like it's that having to not translate themselves for each other. Like they both have been through this pain, they both have been through these experiences, so they get each other. And then it like later on we're going to see of how their experiences are still sometimes different because Noah is beautiful. Noah works hard to fit the standards, and Howie knows that he doesn't fit it. I also want to say just simply that I love Bowen Yang. He is beautiful. I know we're saying like a conventionally attractive, all that. I want to clarify that Bowen Yang is beautiful and I love him. Like
Yeah,
he
I agree.
was in that wedding banquet movie, also fantastic. So
Yeah. Yes. We're saying unconventionally attractive because that's how he defines himself in the movie.
yes.
He is definitely
To
not
clarify.
unconventionally attractive.
And to clarify.
Yes. Like Noah has this great line. Let me see if I can find it. But he has this line where he's like, I used to feel so bad about myself when I would come to Fire Island. And then I realized that I was giving my power away to other people. And I learned to stop giving that power away. And it's just such a like, with Noah, like it like I'm trying to like find the best way to say it, but I read a lot of articles and was really trying to understand like how people perceive the film. And one thing that people are saying is like, within the gay community, you're always trying to like, and like get the read on people and try to understand if people are going to accept you for who you are or not. And sometimes that can just translate into being closed off and not open. And I thought Noah's character was such a good embodiment of that, is that he was just so like used to being judged or used to being like seen or perceived or just I don't know, like judged, that it's just finally translated into like a wall going up and him just like being like, you know what, I'm not going to give anybody power to define me. I'm going to define myself, which is
Yeah.
truly very empowering and also like a very logical like consequence of his experience. But it's almost like the wall has gone up in a way that it doesn't come down, and that's like a driving force in the whole plot. Like it's like because he has these perceptions and because he will not see Charlie or Will or their house or anything in any other way that he or even Dex in another way, it's like kind of sometimes like the driving force in the plot.
Yeah. It's kind of it, I think that is such a perfect summation of him that like he he knows himself. He knows himself and he is going to protect himself, but sometimes that protecting himself makes him really cynical and makes him lash out first or reject others, as Will says to him later on, like he rejects first so that he doesn't get rejected. Like, and I think it's a completely understandable thing because yeah, he has been judged his whole life in many different ways. Like this is all both of what we're talking about with Howie and Noah is intersectionalism and how these different parts of their identities are playing into each other and that they have these unique experiences that the other characters don't have. Um, and this is his response, and I think that's totally fair, but like it's not I, the movie doesn't necessarily punish him for this. Like it's not being like you need to open up, but it's is admonishing it a little bit in the way being like, hey, you need to understand that sometimes there are good people out there and maybe you can open yourself up a little bit. Like, um, I will save more the ending for later, but you see that in the ending where he's a little bit open, but he's not changing who he is. And like, that's such a Jane Austen thing of like, she allows the characters to grow without changing who they are as people. And especially with the way that he is trying to get Howie to hook up with Charlie, like he is feeling the judgment from Charlie's friends big time. Like he is reading the situation correctly. They do not like Noah and his friends. And like, so his walls are up, but like while I think he's very justified in that, I think it is also like he can let down his walls a little and then he finds someone he likes, which is Will. I also just want to say as a very quick side note, I literally have it in my notes that he plays bitchy so well, like bitchy Elizabeth,
Noah.
like Noah. Like
Yeah. When I say they capture the tone of the book in
so
that, I was like, yeah, he writes it well.
it's so good. Like he's so witty. He's so witty. And the movie overall is very witty, very, very clever, both written and editing. But he's so witty, but he's also like he's got that little bit bitchiness to him, and he's justified in it because like Charlie's friends are awful. Like he has a right to lash out, but it's so fun to see. I'm like, oh, again,
Yeah.
I love you.
I like what you said about Austen's character because actually there's a scene where him and Howie are sitting on the pier and he says like you're going to realize that he says something, but he's like, you're going to realize that I'm always right. And he's like, yeah, that didn't come to bite me in the butt later.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the one aspect that gets changed. It's not his entire perception. It's like this one aspect of thinking that you are always right. And he is right. Like you hear the way, I forget his name, but the friend of Charlie, who's like a
Cooper?
Cooper, yeah. The
Yeah,
way
yeah.
Cooper and the way Reese talk to all of them are just like so, and the way Brad or whatever the guy from the
Yeah.
house is Braden is like, when they talk to him is very like demeaning and they're all like that. And I think the thing that he just needed to realize is yes, the whole house is like that, but Charlie and Will are not like that. And Charlie and Will keep showing him that they're not like that. And he's just not seeing it. So it's like, it's not a whole personality change. It's not like be
No.
open to the world. It's just like realize that you probably are right. Your instincts are good, but just be open to the times that you may not be right about someone.
I'm so glad you reminded me of that because I'm bringing back everything Pride and Prejudice because we are kind of talking about it in forms of adaptation, so forgive me for this. But that is, I feel like, such a trademark characteristic of Elizabeth that she thinks she's right about everything. And you see it in so many of the adaptations. You see it in Lizzie Bennet Diaries, like, and Noah also thinks that he's right all the time. And you're absolutely right that is, it's not it's not changing his whole worldview. It's just understanding that people can have nuances and people might not always be what you think, which is literally what the story of Pride and Prejudice is about, is that Elizabeth jumps to conclusions about Darcy because so it starts off with like he insults her without him realizing that she heard it. And so she assumes the worst of him. She thinks he's an awful, horrible human. And over the course of the story, she's like, oh, maybe I jumped to conclusions. Maybe there's more to this person that I previously understood from that one single interaction. Like
But she also gets external validations. Like so there's a societal element to it. Like she gets all of these little things that feed into her prejudices against Mr. Darcy.
Exactly.
And it's
And
it's things that are told from other people's limited perspective.
everything is a limited perspective, and it's so much about understanding that there's more to people.
Mhm.
And it's going past that first impressions, which was the original title of this book.
Oh.
And same thing with Noah and Will, that like he is a snap to judgment. And even sometimes I feel like he's even judgy of his friends. And like
He is, yeah, there's a line or two where he's judgy of them.
he's judgy of his friends. And like I think when he's being judgy with his friends, he's feeling the pressure of the week, feeling the pressure about being like, this is the last time we're together. Like, and when he's being snapped to judgment with like Charlie's friends, like he is correct. Like they're, as I said, they're awful people, but like he's not always right. He's not always thing, and always being quick to judge does bite him in the ass.
He's also not vulnerable. I think that's a very important thing to note. And that's something that him and Will have in common is that they cannot be vulnerable. And there's like a scene at dinner where they're like, oh, this is the last time we'll be here. And he starts to get emotional and he just immediately was like, you know,
Yeah.
forget that. Like, let's not be emotional. But yeah, he can't be emotional. And I think neither can Will. And it takes a
Yeah.
lot for both of them to put down their like armor in that way.
Yeah, it's armor, which I want to transition to Will, but I had two more thoughts, which was
Yeah.
that first going with Noah, that it is said slash implied that he needs this family and this house more than the others. Like it's kind of implied he doesn't really have anything else, not anything else, but maybe not other family in his life. They never explain, they never go into his backstory, but it's there and you can see it in his performance and you can see it in his character that like this means so much to me. And he won't let himself believe that and won't let himself show it, but it's like that's also kind of why he's holding on so tightly and why he's like thing. And like one of the things that they say at the end of the movie is like things have to change, and like that's terrifying. He doesn't want to be vulnerable. He doesn't want to like let go of this family, but like he has to learn that like they're gonna be his family no matter where they are.
Yeah. I do want to talk about that line. Things always change. We have to, well, later we'll get into
Later,
that.
we'll come back to it because I think that's a lot to unpack. And then the
Yeah.
other thing, which we can talk now or later, but his recurring refrain is to Howie is you and me,
Yeah.
fuck the rest. And like that we were talking earlier about their relationship and like it is them against the world, literally.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, you know, segueing, if you want to, right, Freddie segue to
Mm.
Charlie and Will.
Mm.
I actually love that I noticed it much more in this than probably the book, but it's like two best friends and two best friends. Like it's Noah
Yes.
and Howie and Will and Charlie, and they're both trying to help each other out in the way that they see fit. So Noah's really trying to help Howie get laid. And Will, you know, like Charlie's problem is that he's too friendly. Charlie's problem is that he's such a nice guy that people take advantage of him. And Will is constantly wary of the people who are taking advantage of Charlie, and he's trying to protect his friend.
That's exactly it. There's a line that Charlie says that he's like, I brought Will because I wanted an actual friend here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's it. There's also, there's a funny, I think it was a Tumblr post that was that for this movie that they're like, this movie is such a good adaptation because it understands that Elizabeth and Will and Darcy characters are fundamentally the mom friends. Like, it's like, yeah, like these are the two, you have these very sweet, loving, like Howie and Charlie who are just very open, and then you have their friends behind them who are like, please be safe, please be safe. Like, I want to take care of you. Like,
Yeah.
you're so right. It's two friends and it's two friends. And I want to jump into Will, but I need to finish. Maybe let's finish with Charlie first. That Charlie is a defining characteristic of his character, Mr. Bingley, is that he kind of doesn't have a backbone. He kind of just trusts, not necessarily.
Like he's very open.
He trusts other people more than he trusts himself. Like he kind of understands that he's not the smartest guy in the room, so he trusts Darcy and he trusts his family when they say Jane isn't good for you. Like, and that's also what happens here, that Charlie trusts them when they say that his ex-boyfriend needs him. Like he kind of he's very loving, he's very open, but he kind of falls to other people's opinions because like he's like, okay, like I trust that you have my best interests at heart, and a lot of times they don't.
Yeah. I think my read on Charlie, like not really having that perception into Mr. Bingley, my read on Charlie is that he's just used a lot. So like in the conversation that Noah overhears with Will, he says something to Will like, I like Howie because he didn't ask me for drugs.
Oh,
And he's like a doctor or a veterinarian, we don't know, but whatever
yeah.
he is, like apparently people try to hit him up for access to drugs. And he's like, I like that he hasn't asked me. I think he says something like he hasn't asked me one thing about myself, in the sense that people
Yeah.
are always trying to use him for his money or his status or his
Yeah.
looks or just
Are
to
they
hook up.
That's exactly it. I was exactly going to say the same thing where it's like they're like Howie and Charlie are attracted to each other, but it's actually about an emotional connection. It's not the
Yeah.
hooking up, it's not the sex. And like I think you're 100% right. He probably gets used a lot.
Yeah. And he senses
Um,
that Howie's not like that. And there's so many things that just show you that he genuinely likes Howie. Like he
mhm.
finds things that he says funny. Howie recommended that they go to check out the karaoke bar. And he tells him, like, even when he's with Reese, he's like, I'm so happy you told me to check out the karaoke bar because it was really fun. Like he actually finds things that Howie says interesting and fun and cool and stuff. Like it's not like contrived at all.
It's not contract. It's so like you have Pride and Prejudice maybe is like what 300 page-ish book. Like you have 2 hours, if not less, to translate these stories, and so people take a lot of shortcuts. But this story does such a good job because there's little things that they show that Charlie likes him, where it's like how he explains to him Gaze in Space, the SNL skit, and then he's like walking away with his friend. He's like, "Have you heard about Gaze in Space?" Like
Yeah.
it's so sweet. Like it's so sweet. Like it, as you're saying, like you can tell he genuinely likes him. And people around him are kind of like, really? But it's like, no, we see it. We see when they spent the whole night
Talking.
talking. They spent the whole night doing a puzzle.
But
No, they
also
spent
20 minutes doing a puzzle, 27 minutes doing a puzzle, but he stayed up when he was sick and
that's
just stayed
true.
with him. And that was really like sweet.
It was so sweet. Like he seeks him out. You can see it in his face when he sees how he's singing, that like he generally has just met someone who just brings light into his life. And
Yeah.
you see him both. What I love about Howie and Charlie is that they both love each other's personhood. Like it is not about the sex. It's not about the body fat ratio. It's not about your masculinity. It's not about being Asian. It's not being white. It's about your poor. Like none of those class things matter. It is that they see each other and they think the other person's beautiful. And
Oh,
like,
that's a really sweet way of saying it. Like taking it out of all of the class structures in
yeah.
this world. Yeah.
And I also like, again, this is going towards the end of the story, but I cry every time when like he's confessing to Howie and he says, "You're beautiful." Like
Yeah.
it that is what Howie has wanted to hear his whole life. And that is what every
But it's like everything. It's like you're
yeah,
beautiful. You're the funniest person I've ever met. You're like the
yeah.
most intelligent. Like it's not just like looks again.
It's not
It's like
looks.
the whole
He
package.
sees his entire personhood and he thinks that's beautiful. And it's like for someone who's been felt undesired his entire life, like that is incredible. And it's like you have such a short amount of time, but the actors and the writing does such a quick job of being like, hey, these two are connecting like
Hmm.
on so many levels, and they don't get to spend a lot of time together throughout the movie, but you get it enough that by the end you're like, okay, yes, like these two people like each other a lot.
Yeah. I also have to say that this actor, he portrays Charlie so well. And I just kept thinking, I was like, he could play Charlie in any version of Pride and Prejudice. Like he could be in a
Yes,
completely like straight
he
1800
totally is.
version and he would still be a great Mr. Bingley.
He
Like
would be a great Mr. Bingley.
so good.
He is adorable. I love the energy. It's a little bit of like puppy dog or like
Golden
kind of
retriever energy.
golden retriever energy. But they do again like little. So we've been talking a lot about how contextually they adapt Pride and Prejudice, but sometimes they also take things from the story, which is that Charlie says he doesn't really read that much, and that's something that Mr. Bingley says, and like it is there is a lot of direct translations as well as like indirect.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Should we go on to Will?
Will, yes.
I also thought Conrad Ricamora was like, again, I could see him playing Darcy in so many, like,
He's great.
again, really good embodiment of Darcy.
He's so great. I'm sure he has done other stuff, but I think he's like really famous for How to Get Away with Murder, where he plays the really cute nerdy boyfriend who wants to get into this life of crime with the law students, and you're like, honey, no, you're too sweet for this. So it's fun to see him. It is so fun to see him again, essentially, and to see a very stoic, reserved, I want to say mature, but I'm thinking more of like rich side of him. Like he's someone that, okay, I want to unpack him for a minute because we get a lot of hints about his character, but not necessarily a lot of insights into his personal thing. And I think I want to talk about how he is also Asian American and gay. Like he is subjected to the exact same class structures that Noah and Howie are, but because he's rich, he's kind of allowed into this inner circle, and he's like Noah points this out to him, and he's like, "You think I'm like those other guys?" Like
Yeah.
he's still subjected. He doesn't talk about it, but he is, and there is also a level, and we can also go back to like the top of his character, but there is also a level that he like Noah calls him out for kind of internalized homophobia about being like, hey, if he doesn't act like he's gay, then like he'll lessen the pain of being gay, essentially. And I don't know if that's entirely true of his character, but yeah, like yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's all Noah's read on him, but you don't know what plays into him, especially because he does, his house is described as like white, rich, 7% body fat, and he fits
Mm.
two of those three, which is ironic because it's exactly what Noah's friends said about him as the
Mm.
reasons why he gets rejected. Like they fit two out of the three. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, like you don't know how much of that is like a front that he's with his friends that he has to like play into. But yeah, Noah's read is that he has like internalized homophobia, is that how you describe it?
Mhm.
Like this
Yeah.
internalized like disassociation and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I guess he doesn't really say anything to like validate or not validate that perception.
It is like you can read it as he's just a shy person. He's just reserved. He maybe just likes wearing polo shorts and shorts at an underwear party. Like not the underwear party, but I think the tea party.
No, I think it's the
Um,
underwear party. He wears like box like shorts and everyone's in their
like
underwear.
the cargo shorts. Like
Yeah.
maybe he's just a shy person, but his journey through the movie is also allowing himself to be more open and to the gay community, gay experiences, to having fun, to love. So it's a little bit of, I'm like, I actually kind of do think he has a little bit of internalized homophobia, and maybe he's also just reserved, but either way, he does need to open up a little bit.
Yeah. Like you get this scene, it's so funny when they see him at one point, he's eating like a tiny little ice cream cone, and Noah's like, I didn't strike you as a guy who would eat tiny ice cream, and he just like throws it away. And it's
Does
like
it twice, and it's
he
so
does it
funny
twice, and
where
it's
he's
such a
like throwing it right and run, and you're like, I think I don't know if they say it or something. He's like, I like ice cream cones.
yeah. Yeah. He's like, I like ice cream cones. Well, that's funny because the first time he says it, they run upon him and Charlie, and he's eating the ice cream. He just immediately throws it away. And he's like, I don't like ice cream that much. And the next time that happens, he throws it and runs away. And then Noah catches up with him. And then he's like, I like eating ice cream. Like you see him doing it by himself. Like he actually likes ice cream. Like it's not just like he was just eating it because it was there.
I,
But then the vulnerability, like he's not, I mean, to me, that ice cream scene was like he can't be vulnerable. But then later on, when he's with Noah and him and Noah are connecting, he puts his guard down and he competes
yeah,
in yeah, I
yeah, the
guess
drag
like
show
yeah, like the
dancing.
drag show dancing, which I think, is on both levels. It's like he's not someone who seems like would dance publicly and then also compete in like a drag show in that way. And he's totally letting go of all of that.
And I think like so we were saying earlier about how Noah his response to all the prejudices that he's faced in the world is to close up and to be smarter than everybody else and to react first before someone can reject him. And I think Will's response is to play, I'm gonna say play it straight, and I don't mean straight heteronormatively, but like straight as in like I imagine that the way that he acts here is how he probably has to act in LA. He probably has to be really straight laced. He probably has to just be like kind of closed off. He kind of just has to be like, I'm gonna just get through this. Like, and I, at least maybe I'm projecting here, but
Or
like I
even as a
kind of,
lawyer, one of the two,
yeah, he's a
or
lawyer.
his like field, yeah.
Exactly. Like he kind of has to be that straight laced kind of just being like, okay, we're gonna just do business. And like, so being pulled into this world that's no rules, full of fun, like he doesn't know what he's doing. And like maybe, and I do think always that part of that internalized homophobia is there, but it's like he is not connected to his own sense of fun and love, or he won't show it to other people. Like, and as we're saying with the ice cream, with the dancing, like he does know how to, he says, he's like, I know how to have fun. Like, it's just,
I also say I don't think his house knows how to have fun because, the first
mm,
time they hang out, they're all watching the sunset together. And it was cute because
mm,
both groups had plans to watch the sunset. But
mhm,
Noah's house does it in a very like adorable way where they count down to the sunset and then they like cheer when it goes down. And like Charlie's group or Will's group just watch it. So it's
mhm.
like,
It's like they're trying to be aesthetic while watching the show.
yeah, but yeah, aesthetic, but also like I think Charlie was like very open to how much fun like
Yeah.
Noah's house was having, but like the way their friends do it is just like it's like they don't know. It's not like they're not open to it. It's like this is the way they've just always done things and not been
Yeah.
exposed to any other way. So when they
Yes.
see these fun ways, like when they see the karaoke night and these fun things that people do, they're like, that's cool. We didn't know. It's just
Yeah.
not what we've ever done.
I'm gonna make a jump in analysis. This might be a reach, but let's see where I go with this. So there is the scene where they come to the dinner party at the house and they're playing the
Heads up.
forehead game, heads up game. And Will doesn't know gay pop culture, which is like I felt very sympathetic to it. It was like I don't know a lot of my own gay pop culture. I'm sorry. And but there, I think exactly what you're pointing out with the sunset and with those games is that there is inherent joy in the queer community. And there are some people in the queer community who are still so focused on the aesthetics or so focused on trying to survive, I guess, in a way about being like recreating structures or trying to survive in this heteronormative world that they don't have access to that inherent joy that's in the queer community. And Will's journey is about being like, hey, he's like kind of in this like, I need to just kind of like keep going, keep doing my thing. I'm gonna be really awkward about all of it and learning to access that joy.
Yeah.
That kind of a stretch, but like that's what I'm reading.
No, I it's funny because I actually wrote down survival as a theme for
Yeah.
this movie, not even for like the book, because it's not something they talk about. I mean, it is. No, I think Noah talks about it a lot, that like survival is how they survive in a technically more heterosexual world, but even within, going into this community and being on Fire Island for that week, like they don't necessarily let go of those survival instincts. Like they're so
Yeah.
embedded into who they are and how they navigate the world that they don't just let it go and it still influences who they are as people.
Because it's still class structures. There's
Hmm.
still class structures within the community. And so they still have to survive. They still have to like combat and come up against these other classes that look down on them or discriminate against them. Like they have to survive. And like I there's another really important scene that I loved at the very beginning when Noah comes over to the house to pick up Howie, who like slept the night. He's talking to Will, and Will offers him a water bottle, and Noah kind of lashes out. He's like, the water here is perfectly safe to drink. You don't
Well,
need this
he's
expensive.
offering it while he's also apologizing.
He's trying to apologize. Oh, well, we'll get to the apologies.
Okay.
Um, he's like offering, he's like, the water's here fine. You don't need these expensive water bottles. And Will like he's like, okay, fine. He throws in the garbage. And then after Noah leaves, he Will takes it out and puts it in the recycling. It is such a good summation of him and like Mr. Darcy, where it's like they do good things without anyone noticing them. Like, and I will
Yeah.
also let me maybe jump back just a second to say Mr. Darcy is both someone who is very shy and reserved and also a snob. Like, there's some debate on whether or not he's just like, oh, he's just awkward. And it's like, no, he's a jerk. Like, he's both. Anyway, um, but a fundamental characteristic is they do good when no one's watching. And Will, he reacts to Noah's perception of him by being like, okay, this is what you think about me. I'll be that person you think about me. Like I'll be that person, even though that's not him. Like, and that is how he reacts to the world.
Yeah. And that's his defense mechanism too. It's his way of being like, I'm not going to sit and fight you and your ideas of me. Like,
Yeah.
that's not my responsibility to make you think differently if you're going to think what you think of me.
Exactly. Which is very similar, honestly, to Noah. That it's
Yeah.
like they kind of just like, hey, I'm gonna be me. If you don't get it, you don't get it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I thought they had such a cute, I think you see that in that very cute exchange is cute,
Mhm.
but their banter about powers, the Alice Munro
Oh,
short
yeah, yeah.
story. And it was so interesting because they had two totally different perceptions on what powers meant. And it's interesting because they both perceive power, like how they
Mhm.
act is influenced by their sense of power in the world and how much power they have. So I love that they are bantering about this story called Powers, and they both have two different understandings of it. And then Noah's like, just say that I'm right. And Will's like, okay, you're right. Like, they just let it exist that they can disagree and that's fine. And they can
Mhm.
still be fine together. I thought that was a great microcosm of their relationship.
That is such a good point. I was wondering what the significance was of the story of Powers, like in the story. Um, it's such a cute, flirty banter moment. But you're right, that's a really good example of their characters where Noah wants to be right. He's like, I don't care, let me
Yeah.
be right. And Will's like, okay, like I'm not gonna if I can't change you, I'm not gonna change you. Like he's not gonna try. And later on, I see that, saying, for example, like Will is the one who brings Charlie back to Howie. Like he's the one who's like, hey, we got to go to the docks. We got to get Howie back. Um, and it's kind of like even that little bit of that being like, oh, he also kind of changes in himself in that way where he's like, okay, like actually, we're gonna fix the situation instead of just letting the situation be.
That was great. That's a good point. That's his character change. It's like he's always like, fine, it is what it is. You're
Yeah.
gonna think what you think. And that was a moment of him being like, no, let's do something about this.
Hmm.
That was a great, great note.
Thank you. And I also wanted to say about the apologizing, because I think he apologizes in that scene with the water bottle, and then actually I do think it's that scene, but I was also going to tie it into the rain scene that when he apologizes, he's kind of placing the blame on other people. Whereas Noah's mad at him for making the comment about Noah. Like he says about Noah, he's not hot enough to be that annoying, which is kind of that discriminatory again, like against femmes. Um, so he's mad, but like Will is too proud. He's not apologizing for the things he actually should be apologizing for, and he's not really taking responsibility. He's kind of just being like, I'm just here, like don't take and like I think later on in the story he's like, no, I actually have an active role here and I need to play it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good note on his character development. Do you have a lot of notes on Aaron?
Not really, no. I'd like to hear what you think.
Um, so I read like a few interviews. I read interviews with Andrew Ahn, Joel Kim Booster, and Margaret Cho. And something that Margaret Cho brought up, which actually made me very sad, was like she's the mother character to these characters, but it's also representative of the fact that like there's a certain generation of gay men who don't necessarily have elders because a lot of people died in the HIV/AIDS pandemic. And I was like, that's really sad. Because again, the story takes place in Fire Island, which is off Long Island. Most people who are going there live in New York, are part of the New York culture scene. And that's, of course, where a lot of the deaths were happening. And I was like, oh, like it's so sad when you think about it that she ends up being a stand-in mother to them because there's just a lot of people from that generation who passed away very sadly. And so they're not necessarily people who have been gay. I mean, there are, but like there's still like a vacuum of this wisdom being passed down to generations on how to navigate the world. And she's also kind of this like cautionary tale to Noah's character because she talks about how she was always like, she always had her guard up and she was always like trying to manipulate situations and essentially just like was so into like, kind of, I guess just like isolated her friends. And so now she's hanging out with a bunch of like, you know, people who are at least 20 years younger than her and stuff, if not 30 years younger. And it's like trying to tell him, like, hey, you cannot isolate people. You cannot hold people at arm's length. You cannot have these prejudices that you've never overcome because at some point you may end up just being alone. And she has a great setup, and it's not like a sad setup, but she's also trying to impart that wisdom onto him.
I think that really ties into a lot of the queer community. Because these social structures very much exist in the queer community. And like there's a lot about there's exclusionariness about asexuals. And
Mm.
there's a lot of back and forth about whether you're too masculine or you're too feminine, or there's even like anti-trans gay folk, and you're like, excuse you? Like there's so many of these things, but all it does is divide people, and all it does is pull people apart. And like this is kind of more macrocosm of what you're saying about the character, which I think is true, but like there's so little of the community to begin with. Like it is a very large community, but like a lot of us exist in like small places, and like with people who died in the AIDS epidemic, like we lost so many people, like so millions of people, especially the LGBT community, like they're gone. Like so it's not the queer community has always been about inclusion and acceptance. And by putting up these barriers, like you're not helping anyone, you're just dividing the community. And like that's not to anyone's benefit, because what helped the community survive during the AIDS epidemic was togetherness and community. And like there's a beautiful from one of the articles I was reading about Fire Island. Oh, this was on The Conversation by Sibel O'Brien, but he said that like during the AIDS epidemic, like Fire Island became a site to like um a site of care and to politically
Mm.
mobilize and to grieve. Like
Oh,
it's
I'm glad you found that.
yeah,
That's really nice to know that's part of the history.
it is that's why I said like it's a sacred place. Like it has been a part of the community for years, and like the stratification is like not helping anyone.
Hmm. And they don't get into it, but obviously it's like how it goes on, how it continues and stuff, and like, the division and how that can continue through generations if they don't do something about it.
Exactly. And like and it plays into personally, which is what Margaret Cho is talking about, like personally with the characters, about being like, yeah, they don't have, as she says, like I think she's like, I can't remember if the quote is like I've been gay longer than you've been live, or like something like that. Like she's like I've been around a lot longer. Like she has been through all of these stories, and like they feel like they're the first ones who have ever experienced this. But it's like no, like she's been through this. She's done the exact same thing. She tells them not to push people away. And like same thing with Pride and Prejudice. Like it's the same thing about like these stratifications are pulling people, have pulled, say, like Jane and Mr. Bingley apart, when like, no, that's not how it should work.
I mean, going to Pride and Prejudice, it even pulls like like not Jane, it pulls Lizzie and Charlotte apart because she
Mm.
completely disagrees with like Charlotte's choice to get married without really respecting the fact that it was like the most best offer Charlotte could get. And she looks
Hmm.
down upon it. It fractures their relationship when
That's
it
true.
didn't need to.
It
It
does.
really didn't need to. That was probably like Charlotte was always going to end up in a situation like that, you know?
Hmm. And that's also why, like, when Darcy, because I want to go back to Charlotte in a minute, when Darcy proposes to her, he insults her family, he insults her background. Like, it's kind of like,
It's
you're
like
like,
it's like despite your status and your place and like this is a
yeah,
proposal.
your
That's so
family.
mean. Yeah,
And
and your
you're like,
family is like God.
you deserve every insulting thing that she's about to say to you, because like that was so awful to say.
Yeah.
Like it really is like these that's the story. It's all these prejudices, and these prejudices are personal on these interpersonal levels, but they are also societal. And the story is critiquing all these prejudices at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit of the side characters before we get more into themes and all. But a really interesting thing I found about the story of Fire Island, as an adaptation, Pride and Prejudice, it takes out the Mr. Collins storyline
I
entirely.
know. It does.
So, okay, hold on. I had a whole thing about this where, because I was like looking, what preparing for the story, or this podcast, I mean, I was like kind of be like, okay, what makes a good adaptation? And I've always thought good Pride and Prejudice adaptations were one-to-ones, about being like, okay, did they do this? Did they do that? Did they have this conversation? And then after like a week, I was thinking about Fire Island. I was like, wait a minute, they just took out Mr. Collins entirely. Like, and then that completely changed how I viewed adaptations, because do you mind if I go on about
Yeah.
this? So it was totally smart and it was actually totally fine not to take out Mr. Collins because it wasn't needed to this story. Mr. Collins, he kind of plays a couple of things in the story, but Mr. Collins plays as a reinforcement of the ideas of marriage and love and money. So Mr. Collins is the cousin of the Bennets, and he proposes to Elizabeth, but he's incredibly condescending. He's incredibly weird. He's incredibly
He's like
up,
imperceptive of his like
yeah,
surroundings or people or anything.
yeah. He's very self-centered and really demeaning, honestly, especially to Elizabeth. And she says no because she kind of can't stand him, and they would not be happy together. And he's like insulting, and her mother is like, "What are you doing? You need security. You need to be taken care of." And she's like, "No, I will not enter something that I hate just for financial security." Like she kind of like that's one of the things about Jane Austen is that she recognizes that you do need at that time you needed money to get married, but it was also wrong to get married just for money. So Mr. Collins plays into that, and he marries her friend Charlotte, and they get into a fight about it. Like, and he introduces her again to like a rich character. Like, so he's a lot about that money. He's a lot about that money and about those social expectations. But that wasn't necessarily needed in this adaptation of Fire Island because we already have a lot of discussion about money. We have discussion about the class structures, and also like we get all that conversation without necessarily having to have this side character. So they were like, okay, we can take him out, like, and still have the same theme, still have that conversation, those back and forth. There's a character named Moses who I think is like the closest to the Mr. Collins. He's like the weird guy who like tries to like hook up with Howie.
Yeah, the one who
That's
like kind of fetishizes Asians a little
he
bit.
fetishized.
That's
Yeah,
interesting. That is very interesting.
he's the closest I think. I and like they
You're so
do.
right. Because he does propose. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Mhm.
he like propositions Noah first.
There's like I have to think of the other example. There's another example of something that they did include because this was actually relevant to the themes. But I was like, you can take an adaptation doesn't have to be one to one, but it does have to have an understanding of what those one to ones are doing. Like they understood Mr. Collins not like his purpose in the story and made sure that purpose was still in the story, so they didn't need the character.
Yeah, I think that's a very like a screenplay is like a novel is like 200 plus words. A screenplay is like 120 pages. The way it's written, it's like you have to like, and also you're in the character's head a lot versus you're seeing things on screen, and you can have you can have like inner thoughts like you do in this film, but like you've got to translate things intelligently, and you've got to take the bigger picture of a scene or the purpose of a character and say, how is this playing into the story? And how can I still have the same forces play into the story without this character or without these scenes? And it takes like a lot of analysis and a very deep understanding of the story and its structures and its interplay to be able to do that in a screenplay. And he does it, you're right, he does that without having a Mr. Collins character
Mm-hmm.
in the part.
It's not like people. We have so many, say, action adaptations now of Disney movies, and they will recreate it scene to scene, but they fundamentally misunderstand why those scenes worked or what they were doing or what they were purposeful. Like I take again, this is going on a side tangent. Like I don't really like the Aladdin, I think 2019 version. And then but in the opening scene, it is the same of Aladdin running away because he stole bread. But in the cartoon, it shows him being really clever, how he cleverly gets in and out and like confounds these guards in order to escape. Whereas the live action version is just him doing a lot of parkour. Like it's not telling us anything about the character. It's not serving the same thing, even though it's pretty closely similar to each other. Like you had, as I exactly said, it does require an analysis and an understanding in order to translate something. And that's why
Yeah.
this is a really good translation and why there's a lot of adaptations that don't work.
And it's also an understanding to the reader. And I think that's why you get different adaptations. It's because someone is going to get something different from a story and they're going to understand something different. So when they're making it into a screenplay, it's going to look differently to them. And that's
Mm-hmm.
going to translate, like the way a book translates to a reader is going to be different from how that person adapts it. And then how that story translates to a viewer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of variations on one story.
Yeah.
Okay. So switching gears a little bit, do you want to do you want to talk about the story kind of from like the rain scene, which is kind of the climax of the story?
Yeah, definitely. So kind of giving the lead up into the rain scene, because the rain scene very reminiscent of the rain scene of the 2005 Keira Knightley version. But the rain scene is more or less of Noah finding out that Will likes him. But leading into that, we're kind of having this previous scene of all of them going to the underwear party, and it's a total mess. Kind of Howie, it's Noah trying to corral all of his friends. Howie
We're
gets his
all on
heart broken.
various drugs,
All of them, like
which they don't really know what they took. Like half of them took things they didn't know what they took.
exactly. And like they mentioned very briefly earlier on that Noah is a nurse. And then this is the scene where like, oh, you're a nurse. Like, cause he's like just checking their symptoms, checking their eyes. He's like, okay, drink some water, like go get some water, like do this. Like he's like, and they're kind of like wandering on like kittens, like, and he's just trying to get them all together and get them home. Um, but it's a mess. Like Howie sees Charlie with his ex-boyfriend and it sucks. And Cooper, who's the friend of Charlie, who is just super honestly racist and self-absorbed, um, he is interrupting like Will and Noah, and he's like, actually, Will is like for me is of like taking claim ownership to like an Asian body, which is like super problematic. And then Noah bashes Dex's nose, which we will get to Ned Dex in a minute. He's another character. So it is a terrible night, essentially. It is a terrible night. Noah, who kind of wants everything to be in control, who's just trying to make his friend happy, is about had it. And he and Will are going through the meat rack, which is like the pathway between like Pines and Cherry Groves, which are like two of the communities. And it's kind of this big blow because they're finally saying the things that they're not been saying before. They're kind of really lashing out at each other's what their perceptions are of each other. And we kind of already talked about some of the things that they say to each other where like he thinks Noah is like rejects others first so that he doesn't get rejected, and Noah calls Will out for being like internalized homophobic. And it is a very important scene. It's a very important scene, both in Pride and Prejudice, because it's a turning point. It is finally when the characters are talking to each other and actually saying what their prejudices are to each other. And we find out that their prejudices aren't correct, but like the characters kind of need to learn that. So it is the turning point. And in this movie, it's the turning point. And then I also said that he finds out Will likes him because Will tries to kiss him and he just pushes him away and he's like, you hate me, because that's what Noah assumes. Everyone hates him, everyone looks down on him. Like he assumes Will is this rich successful guy and therefore he's better, like he's like in a different class of his own than Noah, and they're not the same. And so he's just like, you hate me, like what?
Yeah. He's also hasn't seen the ways that like Will probably likes him or anything that Will has said or done. Like to his face, it's just been like disdain. And I like that scene that he pushes him away because I really hate scenes when people are fighting and then they go straight to kissing. So I
Mhm.
actually love that they're kind of fighting and then Will goes to kiss him and he like pushes him away and runs away.
Yeah, it feels, it is a little bit of a cliche, but it feels true to their characters. Because and again, I talked earlier about how adaptations have to take shortcuts sometimes. So with the 2005 Keira Knightley version, like they do have to show sexual tension between the two main characters in order to get us in the short amount of running time that we have. You have to make them believe that they're going to fall in love. And this movie kind of does that, but it gives it a breathing room and it gives it like being like, yeah, like there is a little bit something there, but their prejudices are actually still overtaking any kind of that sexual tension.
Like they're
And
fully
that,
intact.
yeah, like it's not that enemies to lovers. It's not that I hate you, but you're hot. Like it's being like, yeah, I recognize that we were dancing a little, maybe a little bit while ago, but like you hate me. Like it's, and that is so much more true to the original story because the original story Darcy basically is in love with her since the beginning. Like he initially is like, I can't stand this girl, and then 2 seconds later starts thinking she's pretty. Like literally from the beginning, he's kind of like been falling in love with her. She doesn't start falling in love with him until the second half, until after this confrontation, until after she gets his letter and understands, like, oh, this is the guy. And after she sees him in his house in his natural element, then she's like, oh, like it's so much of a it's not a 180. And I think this movie really honors that it's like it's not a 180. Like he's still later on in the movie, we still see them talk. We still kind of see like he makes fun of Will for being really like awkward and shy. And that's when we have the like Will's like, I know how to have fun. Like, and then we see them bonding. Like it has that natural progression.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I also have to say that I really love like in the book you have balls and in this they just have a lot of parties and dances. Like dancing is actually incorporated a lot into this, where they're either dancing at the they're dancing at the tea party
Mm-hmm.
or they're dancing at this party or they're just dancing for fun sometimes. Like it's cute that it's kind of like that same element is put in.
I never would have appreciated that. I really love that.
Yeah. But no, that's a really good like read on like that character in that scene. And yeah.
It's a very and the other big thing, I forget if it happens before or after this rain scene, but Noah gets into a huge fight with Howie, and Howie
Mhm.
calls him out. And that one feels even more emotionally like gutting because Howie's calling out, being like, we're different. He says, don't pretend like you don't know how the world works. Like, it's this whole night has been a disaster for Noah, and like, it's just culminated in these huge fights. And like, but this is the climax. This is the changing point where he has to confront with the way he's been seeing the world and the way he's been seeing the people around him.
Yeah. And I think for Howie's character, so basically Howie just saw Charlie hooking up with Reese, or they were dancing together, and then Howie goes and he's basically about to hook up with this guy who seems like he just kind of like likes Asians, like seems to only be
Yeah.
hitting on Asians and has like a bunch of manga tattoos. Um, and like I think we're seeing like the weariness of Howie and how like he's just being in this place is just grating on him and is just like exhausting him to have to keep navigating it. And
Yeah.
yeah, like it's a climax and a turning point for him as well. Like it's just
Mhm.
like, this is not working, but he doesn't quite give up yet. Like he's still going.
Yeah. And it's like, and Noah tries to comfort him, being like, it's you and me, and like, fuck the rest. And he's like, no, like, I want these things. I want this love. I want this like vulnerability in my life. And like, why aren't you listening to me? But then like that's again when he goes, Noah later on goes to talk to Aaron, and he has to learn that being like, he's been trying to fix Howie this whole time. He's been trying to like, he thinks he knows what's right and he knows what's best for his friend. And surely his friend just needs him like as a
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah. And I think that dynamic speaks to like Noah's inability to see things in complexities and not see the nuances. And he doesn't get that
Mm-hmm.
like to him, they have this shared experience of both being Asian in the gay community, but it's like, no, it's much more complex that they're not the same. And it takes a long time for him to accept that. It takes to the end of the movie to accept that.
Mm-hmm. And even if like I'm jumping a little bit, but we talked about how they say like things have to change. Like, yeah, he's scared. He's scared of things changing. He's scared of like this unknowing, this like vulnerability and this openness being like initially he's like, I don't want to visit you in San Francisco. Or I think it's San Francisco where Howie lives. Um, but later on he says, like, I'll come visit you. Like
Yeah.
their relationship has changed since Howie's moved away, and he's trying to cling on to what it was and to like what he knows best. And he has to be like, okay, like this is it. Like, and it takes someone holding up that mirror, and it's both Howie who hold that mirror up to himself to be like, oh, like I am pushing people away.
Yeah. And I think that's what's interesting about this adaptation too, is that it puts love on the same playing field as family. Whereas in the book and in other adaptations, like love is kind of like the main goal. But in this one, like preserving that family and also finding love. I mean, it redefines love because it's just like
Mhm.
love is just a hookup.
Mhm.
So it forces you to like see connection in a different way and to value these types of connections just as much, but it holds it on the same playing field as family.
And I think that's an incredibly queer concept. Is like love is in these many forms and all of them are equally important.
Yeah. I do want to talk about, we could go on to talk about Dex and Luke. I do want to say a few other things about the underwear party before
Yeah,
we move
go for
on.
it. Oh yeah.
Um, First of all, I just want to say, like, when Will and Noah are dancing, like, I thought that was well choreographed because they keep getting shoved together. But I remember watching that and I was like, that was a moment that I'm really grateful. I think directors sometimes capture things really beautifully, and them dancing together, I thought was like a very beautiful scene
Mhm.
and beautifully shot. And I really loved that scene. And there's also a scene where they go to like the hookup room or the back room to like hook up where everybody's hooking up. And like something that I really also liked about this film is that it doesn't shy away from like the more raunchy parts of what this community is and what
Mhm.
happens in this community. It doesn't portray it with any kind of judgment, and it doesn't make it palatable for other audiences. Like it's like, yeah, this is very natural. Like it was very like it is what it is, and I love the way it was portrayed. And I think it really lends to like I think, Andrew Ahn himself identifies as gay. And I was like, I don't know if it's the director's view of this or it comes through in the writing, but both really play in so well together to show like the beauty of this connection, but then also just show this like everyone like the sex room, and it's just
Yeah.
normal and natural, and it doesn't
Oh,
feel weird, and it doesn't shy away from showing it either, and it doesn't try to hide things that much.
yeah. It's very, very natural. Like this is the world fully in it. Like we were
Yeah,
being invited into this world. Like
yeah, exactly.
this is a sacred space. This is a sacred time. Like
Yeah,
we get to see it, but like we don't get to judge it. Like this is a beautiful world, and this is how it is. All of
yeah.
it.
And I think, we talk a
I
lot
actually
about,
love that you brought that up because, uh, oh yeah.
oh, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that that was one of my notes that I had was that I was like he shoots um the Asian American actors in particularly very beautifully. Like there's a I love the shot. There's a shot after the water bottle scene where Will's like looking over his shoulder, and it's just such a pretty shot of him. And then again with the dancing, like the dancing is so tender. It's so intimate. Like they're framed and shot so beautifully. And I was like, again, we don't get to see that like in it so often. And it's like as we've been talking this whole time, like in this community, like non-white people get looked down on, and like I love that the movie treats them so beautifully. Um, and just another thing that I was gonna say was that like Noah's character spends most of his movie, or his good portion of the movie, like half naked or in his underwear, and he's very confident, and that definitely plays multiple levels about being like he doesn't care what people think, but he's also playing into the rules, and it's also showing like how beautiful, like showing beautifully how he is, and also it's playing into this like freedom of the place itself. Like it plays multiple roles, and I was like, wardrobe. It's very interesting choice and very
That's a
smart
very good
choice.
point. I do always pay attention to wardrobe, and I did not realize that he's like shirtless for like more than half the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also really quickly wanted to mention Cooper's comment because Cooper interrupts this beautiful, intimate moment between Noah and Will and takes him to the bathroom and is like, I'm not usually into that kind of guy. And Noah's like, you mean Asian guys? And Cooper's like, don't project your issues onto me. Plus, I think his mom is white. And like, just, I don't know, that line. Like, there's some lines that got me just being an Indian person. And I was like, oh, that
Mhm.
line. Like, he's basically confirming that he does judge him for being Asian. And like, I don't
Yeah.
know. It definitely like touched something that annoys me because a lot of times people can be a different ethnicity, but
Mhm.
they're half white. And like those,
Yeah. And
like
difference
Aladdin was a
okay.
great example. Like that actress is half white. And that was like a pretty version of being Indian or Middle
Mhm.
Eastern. And it was just so annoying that like being half white makes this person more attractive because that's what we see in
Yeah.
entertainment and media. And it was such a
It's
good
re
line.
it's reinforced over and over again, especially in recent years, that unlike being half white is preferable, and like that unpacks a whole host of other things, but like yeah, like he's so like all of that house of Charlie's house, like all of them besides Charlie and Will are really racist. Like and they're racist in the way that liberals are racist, where they're like, oh no, we're cool. like we're in the gay community, but you're like,
Oh,
no, you still make comments like this. Like
oh, like
they
there's one time they call them both twin boyfriends, and
the
I'm like,
twin
oh,
boyfriends. I
so
was
just
literally about to
like,
say that. I was like, oh my goodness, like it was just so awful. And then, like I said, where he was like, Will's gonna be my starter boyfriend in LA. Like, I'm sure that's like a real concept of like starter boyfriends or starter girlfriends, but like
it's still like serving a purpose. It's not
it's
like you
serving
like him for him.
exactly. And that's what I said, that I was like, it's claiming the Asian body, it's taking ownership over it. Like, there's so much casual racism that is just being baked in, and like you can just tell like the like Joel Kim Booster is like speaking from the truth, because these are all very real things. And like we've been talking a lot about like the different standards and different like things that are like separating, and like that's a big one, is the race of it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that line definitely give me ick.
How many X?
Do you want to move on to Dex as a character?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Talking about Dex, and then we'll kind of tie into like what happens with Dex and Luke. So Dex, I'm going to go back actually on the Pride and Prejudice part for a second. So Dex is the Mr. Wickham of the character of the story, and Mr. Wickham is someone who's extremely charming, and he is actually kind of a horrible person. He does really horrible things, but he is outwardly charming and outwardly friendly, and he talks shit about Darcy, and Elizabeth believes him because she also hates Darcy, so she believes all the things he says, even though they're not true. Um, and then we find out later on that he elopes with the Bennet's youngest sister, which is like an extreme scandalous thing. It would ruin her, it would ruin the family. Like, and we just find out basically that like Wickham's a horrible person who would do this to her and to the family. So Dex in this story is someone who I thought it was very interesting that he charms his way to Noah by commiserating over being poor. Like,
Mm.
because they had just come from this house at this party where everyone was rich and everyone was like looking down on them. And then like he catches Noah like denting the cans, and he's like, don't worry, like I got it. Like, um, and but then similar thing happens where like he's talking to Noah, and he is the one who it happens in the book where he's kind of instigates talking shit about Darcy, and he also here kind of instigates talking shit about Will. But he's like, yeah, Will looks down on me because like I have an OnlyFans account, which is another interesting like potential discrimination in the community about being like,
It's very
I
open
don't,
about your like sexuality or like, or I
yeah,
guess maybe monetizing it in a way that probably
yeah,
feels degrading.
yeah. And so it's like he's playing right into the prejudices here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think yeah, I definitely agree with all those things about Dex and like, um, yeah, with like Mr. Wickham's character, like he's not like a fortune hunter, but like he's an opportunist. Like he's always after people because he's interested in Lizzie and they have a connection, and then he's interested in another girl because she just came into like a lot of money. Like he
Hmm.
kind of goes where the opportunity is, and I don't know if Dex is necessarily portrayed like that. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know if that
Actually,
aspect.
actually, he is, because Will shows his Instagram, and his Instagram, it's kind of interesting because his Instagram is all um what
It's
is the
like
word?
advocacy, right?
No, no, no. It's performative advocacy.
Oh, yeah.
It's all basically half nude shots of him with like a Black Lives Matter mask, or with like a pride flag, or but it's like the sign will be like where his crotch is. Like, so it's
Yeah.
like he's he's showing, oh, he cares about these things, but it's kind of looks more like he's jumping on the trend
Yeah.
to get followers. Like, it's not, if you really care about some of these issues, you're not thirst trapping. That's the word.
Thirst trapping. Yes.
Thirst
Yeah.
trapping. It's like, you're not really thirst trapping if you really about these issues, if you really cared about the issues. Like,
Yeah.
he is an opportunist.
I think I read that differently. Yeah, it is performative advocacy. I think I read it in the sense that he associates with these kinds of people. I don't know if it was in another TV show I saw this, but like he associates with different kinds of people in order to be a performative ally. Like it's like I guess that's
Oh,
what I read
interesting.
it as. Like
Makes
him
sense.
showing in his Instagram was me reading it as he also targets people to seem like an ally or to seem, I don't know, I can't put it into words, but
Mm.
yeah.
I
But there's a
definitely think we're
performance
like
and
hitting the
it's,
same train of thought.
yeah,
It is a
like,
performativeness to it. We're hitting
yeah.
the same
And
train
what
of
he
thought.
really cares about is like the following and like the fame and the
Mhm.
notoriety that he gets from like posting nude photos and yeah.
Exactly. And he's like, so basically what happens is like, I forget if he ditches Noah or Noah ditches him,
Oh,
but they kind of don't get
actually,
to hook up.
I know what happens. It happens at a party because after Noah runs away from Will, he gets to the party and Dex is kind of waiting for him and they're kind of about to like rekindle what they had. But then Noah is like, I need to go find Howie. And then Keegan comes up and is like, I can't find Luke. So Dex is like, I'll help you find Luke. And I think that's how
Mm.
they go to find Luke. And I think I'm reading into it that Luke was probably more fucked up. Oh, Luke was fucked up because Luke was on
Luke was fucked up. That
yeah, Luke was
is
on G and he was like hanging over Keegan and kind of really out of it.
yeah.
So yeah, he was not in a good mental state. Probably to consent. Yeah. He probably
Yeah,
wasn't
literally.
consenting. Yeah.
It yeah, it's a really fucked up thing what Dex does. So basically what Dex does is he hooks up with him, as we're saying, he was definitely under drugs, and posts a sex tape of it. Like they I think what he does is like they hook up and they spend the whole day together, but then afterwards he like releases the sex tape of it. Um which is incredibly fucked up, both like for consent wise and also
They
just
walk
like
around the consent issue because they're trying to be like, did you consent to this? And he's like,
yeah.
yeah, I consented to the sex. I may have consented to recording, but I didn't consent to it being
Yeah.
published. So they take the like legal issues out of it by just making that part vague, but it's still messed up because he doesn't consent to having it
Yeah.
published.
It's still like he was still very much he he does not have consent to having it recorded, and he very much, you're right, he was very much out of it. Like he was very much under drugs, like
Yeah.
so the consent is questionable. Um which is incredible. It's so incredibly fucked up, but it's also like it gets spread around to their friends back home. Like it's a, like Erin gets it from like the other waiters or something, like her other friends. Like it's so, and it's just like so kind of I'm gonna again take it back to the book. Like the book, like running away to get married was like super scandalous. It ruined not only Lydia, the daughter who runs away, like it ruins the whole family. And again, this is not the translation making it a sex tape is like it's just embarrassing. Like it is so embarrassing to have that privacy violated, to have that consent violated, like and it gets sent around to their friends to be put online, like all the issues of like sex tapes in general, like they're taken without consent, they're taken without okay, and then they're spread to strangers. Like it's not that the whole family's ruined, but it is deeply still emotionally devastating. And it's still a huge violation, and it is still taking advantage of someone who trusted them and like who was like, hey, I'm gonna go with you on this thing, and like it gets completely taken out.
I think it does ruin the family, like because Erin is the one who gets sent this video and she like screams, like again, it goes
Yeah.
back to like they feel for each other like family. Like she's really upset for
Yeah.
Luke that this is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's an emotional, it like there is a financial stake to it in the way of being like having a sex tape can affect whatever in your future, of like family finds it, like jobs find it, like it can absolutely affect you in that way, but it is just an emotional stake about being like it hurts you. It is a violation. It's legally like wrong. Like it is a violation. And like again, kind of like this movie like creates its stakes so personally.
Mhm.
And like I really feel so bad for Luke. Like it's interesting because they do kind of show that Luke is jealous of Noah throughout the movie, which was always an undercurrent, I think.
And
And
he
I
even
appreciate that
touches
they like,
on when they're getting ready, he's like, Dex was flirting with me just as much. Like, who knows? Like
yeah,
they talk about like there's no possession over Dex really. Like,
yeah. Like there is a little bit of like jealousy towards his sister. And like I appreciate that they kind of make that more explicit versus other adaptations. But at the end of the day, like I feel so bad for him because he just looks so devastated because that sucks. Like that is just a horrible thing to do to someone.
Yeah.
Um,
And then Noah gets to play the big sister character by going to his defense. And,
yeah.
like Luke is like, I don't know, like Noah's like, I'm gonna kill him, and Luke is like, yeah, do that, but like don't, I don't want him to be mad at me. Like they
Yeah.
do a good job of portraying the dynamics between the sisters in that
Yeah.
way. Because like Noah runs to Luke's defense, and Luke is still like, well, I don't want him to be like mad. Like,
Mad
don't
at
make it a big deal. Like, don't be this like
Yeah.
bossy big sister, but yeah, like please take care of it.
Yeah. And then like afterwards, Luke is like Keegan has to kind of make him apologize. And he's just kind of
Yeah.
like
I actually like that. I like that too because I was like, Luke, even between them, they're not great at being vulnerable with each other.
yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's probably really true to their dynamic. And it wasn't until Noah was like, I think of you as family. Like, I would do this for
Yeah.
you. And that's when they're like fine and chill and
Mhm.
hugging.
Mhm.
But yeah, it wasn't easy. Like, yeah, Keegan has to
Yeah,
make
that
Luke thank him.
it's very cute. And like the vulnerability is like also still like, yeah, they're still a little closed off. Not closed off, but like, yeah, I said the vulnerability is not necessarily even there with each other, even though they love each other.
Yeah.
Um, but I do love the scene where Noah and Will go after Dex because like that's again a huge point in the book is that Darcy is the one who makes the elopement turn out okay. Darcy's the one who's like kind of gets them married, makes it legal, gives
Yeah.
Wickham the money so that Wickham will stay instead of running away. Like he's the one who fixes the problem. And so I like in this one where we do get Noah's agency where he's like, I'm gonna take care of this. And Will just gets to play supporting character, but being like, okay, legally, like he kind of
Yeah.
makes it stick.
Yeah.
Um,
We get to see them, we get to see another way that they're both very well matched for each other. They both
yeah.
respond the same way, which is like, I'm going to kill him. And he's like, no, I said that. Like, it's cute, the things they say that are the same.
I love that because, like I said, like they're the two mom friends, and it, like in the original story, like basically Wickham had tried to do the same thing to Darcy's sister, and in this one, we don't quite find out the details, but he alludes to it that he's like Will's like he did something somewhat similar to my friend, but my friend didn't want to say anything. Like,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like that kind of speaks to his reservedness, his respect and love for his friends. Like he's a good friend. Like that's another defining characteristic of the Darcy character is that he's a really good friend. Um, and it's very justifying feeling to let them both go at it to go against Dex because you can tell Will's like oh I'm like I you've had this coming like I could finally
Yeah.
do something about it.
Yeah. I do love that he throws the phone in the pool and as they're leaving, he's like, those are waterproof. And of course, it's funny because that's how he loses his phone because he's poor. So he doesn't have a waterproof phone. So he throws Dex's phone in the pool and Will's like, it doesn't do anything.
Catch
He's like, let me
that.
have this.
um it's so like actually wait I have a side note on that. I love that translation note of like he loses his phone and that's why Will has to write a letter to him. Like, because that's in the book, like he
But
writes
it's
a
also
letter to
why he has to go over and pick Howie up too.
Oh, I didn't
Like
realize
it's a definitely it brings like our modern age and this 1800s world like a teeny bit closer.
yeah.
It's such a good point.
It's such a little clever thing because you're like, why doesn't he just text him? Why did like there's a podcast that it also adapts Pride and Prejudice, also literally called Gay Pride and Prejudice, and Darcy leaves him a voicemail, and that's the letter. And so it's cute that this one's like a letter because he's like, I know you don't have a phone.
Yeah. And there's such a funny, like it's so simple because he just anyway, like Max's character just comes running out the house and just knocks him and like on the first day and his phone goes and yeah, it was very simple. Like again, these plot
These
points and
things
these they're just so like simply done. And I think like in
Mhm.
screenplays, it's always like specificity and simplicity. And
Yes.
you don't need a big thing to contrive like how to get a letter to him. It's just like his phone is in the pool.
His phone's full. He just lost his phone. And it's like, it's so it's so funny. It's so I love that he said so specificity and simplicity, like a very elegant and simple solution. And this movie is full of it. So earlier I talked about how Collins was not included in the story. So you kind of would be like, okay, why is Dex included? Like these they're kind of subplots, but they're working in different ways. And there's a reason why one is in, one is out. And with the Dex subplot, the purpose of the story is the purpose of the Dex subplot is to or not Dex, but like Wickham's subplot is to reveal Darcy's character and to complete that transformation of Elizabeth's feelings towards him. Because Darcy is someone who, as I said earlier, doesn't is a good person but doesn't show it. Like he will do things behind the scenes, and so he goes out of his way to fix this problem with Wickham, and he doesn't want Elizabeth to know because he's simply doing this because he loves her and she's like her family's ruined. Like he just wants to make her feel better and just wants to help. But he's not doing this like earn back her love or anything like that. Like no, like he's just a good person. But so we understand his character, and then Elizabeth finds this out and she's like, "Oh, like this is a really good man. Like this man completely went out of his way to do this to save my family and to save my sister." Like it's important to their characters and to the story. And in here and in this movie, like it functions in a similar way where it is like confirming, and also in the same in the original, like it confirms that Noah isn't always right about people. Like he wasn't right about Dex. He wasn't right about this. He wasn't also necessarily maybe right about Luke too. Like he maybe sometimes a little dismissive of Luke and Keegan, but he's like, no, like that's my little sister. Like I still have to protect and love them. Um, and it also shows Will's character, that Will, he might be reserved. He might not talk a lot about what happened to his friend or anything, but like he loves the people he loves and he's going to do anything for them.
Yeah. I think that's a great way. It's another great way of showing it's another great translation of the character and like how the values are the same, and it translates it. Like a big thing I think this movie does is that it translates things into a modern age. Like we don't know. We can't. I mean, I do understand how Darcy feels, but like it's not a world that we really understand. And he takes what happens and translates all of it into like a context that we can understand and a context where we get what the stakes are. And so we can, when we see Will's actions, we feel the same way about it as someone of that time, or even like we would of Darcy. You know, you get the same reaction out of both.
You get the same reaction. In the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, they actually do the same plot point where it's Wickham releases a sex tape with Lydia. And in that one, it's really interesting because it entirely focuses on the devastation that it's on her. It's an abusive relationship between Wickham and Lydia. And so it completely focuses on her emotional well-being and her relationship with the sisters. Like it, even though the plot point is the same between those two stories, they're taken differently. Like, and for her, she is like a 21-year-old girl. Like she is still a child, basically. And so it's devastating for her in a different way that's devastating for Luke. And it's both serious and it's both the same plot point, but it's very smart in the way that these adaptations play to actually the characters and actually like what is
like what is important to them and like what are the stakes for them and what would hit them.
Yes, exactly.
And for Luke, it's like the fact that this is getting passed around to all the the waiters and Chelsea and stuff.
Yeah. And like it's I don't know if the sex tape is the perfect one-to-one translation of like an elopement, but it's close enough where it is emotionally devastating.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like that both take that plot point, but also like do something, still make it personal to them.
Yeah.
I actually kind of just want to touch on the ending, which is that they don't necessarily end up together.
But wait, before we get there, can we actually go back to Howie leaving? Because I think from the point Howie leaves till the end is kind of like very interesting.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
I just want to say how much I love Howie's grief. Like I think the things that really hit me in this movie emotionally, and again, well, we'll talk about this later, but I remember telling you earlier, like I didn't care much about Pride and Prejudice, and like it's a story that I can read but don't really understand. But when I saw this, like it was a world that I understood, it was stakes I understood, it was everything. And I think, of course, when you tie in the Asian element to it, I get that a lot. But like Howie's leaving because it's not just like a defeat from Charlie getting back with Reese, it's a lifetime of Charlie's. And I was like, that was like a pain that I feel like I get, it's like, especially he's 30, so I'm like in your older 20s and stuff, like it's just like a repetitive defeat. Like
Yeah.
I like that again, like it puts the stakes into it translates the stakes. It's not that he thought he was going to fall in love with this guy over their 1 week vacation. It's like the fact that it's just another one of the same kind of hurt that he's already experienced 100 times that he just can't take anymore. But he has that line that he says to Noah, and he's like, "You're the only person I know who knows how shitty it can be sometimes to feel unwanted like this." And like, I think Noah's constantly like, Noah's always like, it's you and me, it's you and me. And he always says it in an empowering way. And I love that how he turns to him and is like, yeah, but in a very devaluing way, you're also the only one who gets it. You're the only one who ever's been in this like shitty place with me who fully gets it. And I don't think we see that, like Noah's always trying to raise Howie up to where he is. And this is the moment that he actually goes and meets Howie where Howie is. And Howie's like, this is what I have valued. It's like, you really get this. And I think and so Howie leaves. And I think the thing I love is that Howie gets on the boat and he's crying. And I love that he gets a moment to grieve because I'm like, yeah, it's not about Charlie. It's like Charlie is just like one in a million things that have happened in his lifetime. But I love that he really gets to feel sad about his loneliness and like grieve this like existential loneliness that he feels.
I love that Howie is welcoming to his vulnerability. Like, I watched The Wedding Banquet also with Bo and Yang, and like he plays it a little bit similarly, but like I don't necessarily feel that character was as beautifully or like as well developed as Howie is. So I just preferred him in this one because like you understand him so well. You understand that like years and years of pain and like he wants love. He wants romance. Like I'm someone who's also like never been in a relationship and I'm in my late 20s. Like it's rough and it's hard and it is you get rejected and you feel unwanted for so long that you stop ever feeling like that hope of being like, oh, there's gonna be someone. Like, no, you're just like, no one is going to. And like he had, and like it's not about Charlie, but it is like, hey, there's one guy who maybe nope, like, or this guy chose someone else over me. Like it's like this
And
is
he chose like a
happening.
white guy, another
And
white,
a white
rich,
guy. It
toned
just
guy.
happens, and like he could be open this one time, but he's just like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired of this. But he's not afraid of love. He's not afraid of romance. He wants it. And like, I'm so glad that he gets that big romantic moment because he deserves it. Like, that is what he has wanted his whole life, is just to be like loved and cherished and romanced in that way, to be that like, hey, someone sees me.
Yeah.
And like, I love Howie, and I love that he accepts that vulnerability. And I'm glad that he's also justified in it. Like the narrative lets him grieve, the narrative lets him cry, the narrative is like, no, you get to have this. Like,
yeah. And like, I do want to talk about like the ending before we get to like the full ending. But when he's going away, two things, like they're standing on the dock and one of them says like, this couldn't last forever. And I think it was Noah's character that is like, yeah, but it feels like all the wrong things are changing. I thought that was such a good line because you think that he's talking about his friend going away, but I'm like, he's saying that he's not changing this world. They'll probably come back 5 years from now and they'll still have these same social dynamics. Like that's not what's changing. And I liked that line, but I also like that we kind of throughout the film get to see that Will isn't a romantic character. Like he doesn't know Legally Blonde or anything. And yet it's Will who comes up with like that spontaneous romantic gesture idea.
oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. It was like he's again and again he's played as someone who's never seen a rom-com. Doesn't even seem like he watches movie, doesn't know all these like cultural things, but he's the one who comes up with the idea. But then also like when you get to the big gesture, I like that to me it subverted the rom-com expectation because Howie isn't like, oh my God, you came for me. He's like, I have a 6:15 train. And then Charlie goes up to him and he doesn't know what to say and he's saying all the wrong things. And we kind of said earlier that even Charlie has a hard time being vulnerable, but like he's honest and he says it. But to me, it was like it's almost like the structure of a rom-com without giving us the rom-com. Yeah, the cliche. Yeah. And it was good.
it's not that Howie is naive. He
Yeah.
knows the world, he knows the world, he knows himself. I love it because you're right. He's like, I have a 615. Like he's like he's very practical. And that does not negate the fact that he wants love and he wants romance and he deserves those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to talk about like the ending of just all of them?
Yeah. I was just gonna say that like I also do love the fact like yeah, Charlie kind of biffs the confession, but it's still, as we said before, it's such a beautiful confession. Like he says he's beautiful, like and he's the most interesting person he's met. Like it is so touching because it's not about saying I love you, it is about saying what that person needed to hear. And that
Yeah.
is what Howie needed to hear. And they're very cute and I love them.
I also think it's a character growth for Charlie because he's always just nice.
Yeah.
And it's the first time that he's honest and he doesn't feel like he has to be nice for the sake of being nice. Whereas we see
Mm.
that he's nice to people a lot
Hmm.
and he's just a nice guy, but he's not nice in this. He's just honest and he's just himself and he doesn't feel like he has to show up in a particular way. And
Yeah.
in that honesty, he connects with Howie.
Mm. I love it. And like kind of connecting into the end where like for Will and Noah, like they're very open-ended. It's not about being like we're gonna fall in love, we're gonna get married. Like it is let's dance. Like it is such a beautiful way to honor their characters and honor especially Noah, who is like, I don't want a relationship. Like you can tell he at that point
And he's
he's
like
just like
thinking about it and he's freaking out about it. And
he's
like,
freaking out.
and Will's like, it's just a dance. And again, like the story redefines our ideas of love and
Mhm.
satisfaction with love. And it's just like a dance is a happy ending.
A dance is a happy ending, and it's so beautiful because they're watching an old couple dance. Like it is just that I want this connection, this moment with you. And it is so tender and it is so beautiful. And like I laugh
Yeah.
at Noah freaking out because I'm like, yeah, you're like, we're gonna overthink it. We want them to get together. Like
Yeah.
we're thinking logistics. He's like, he lives in LA, he lives in New York. What are
Yeah.
we gonna do? Like, but it is the recognition of like these are two people who have connected over this
Yeah.
last week. And it
Yeah.
is so sweet. And like and to say that like for Pride and Prejudice, like actually, for a lot of her novels, apparently, Austen does this a lot where when it gets to the love confession scene or the final, like the characters finally get together, she kind of pulls back. She doesn't say what
Hmm.
they say. Like she kind of is just like, oh, and then they confess. And it's like she summarizes it essentially.
Wow. That's
And
interesting.
and especially with Pride and Prejudice, she summarizes the confession, and then when they're talking more practically about like, oh, this and that, like then she goes back into the dialogue, but then she like kind of pulls back, like it's such an interesting way because it's like, yeah, she also isn't much of a romantic. She's not like
Yeah.
Austen is writing these romance novels, but they're not just romances. They're also social commentary, and they're also like I will get in more into this in a second, but like they're also satires, and like she's not it's not just about the sappiness, it's about like I don't know, it felt very honoring that where it's like we're
Yes.
gonna leave it open, we're not gonna get into all the cheesiness of it like
Yeah. Yeah. I also, in that one conversation, we get to see Will's transformation because again, they're sitting and Noah's like, what are they going to do? They're going to date long distance. They're going to date
yeah.
and Will's like, or they could just be happy. Like,
Mhm.
you could see that he's not a cynic, but we again going back to what you said, like these characters don't change all that much. He confesses that he's monogamous, like he doesn't believe monogamy. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. And yeah, there's also another line where he's like, it feels like a week here is like much longer.
Oh,
And like it was another cute line because we get so many affirmations of the way these characters are aligned and all that stuff was just like it added to like the buildup of them just dancing and having this connection.
it is again, that's such a queer theme about just genuine connection regardless of these labels.
Hmm.
And I love that the movie just ends on that. And I was
Well,
like, I
it
love
doesn't end on that. It ends with all of them, all the family coming in. And
watching this.
I think that's such a beautiful ending because again, it's not like love isn't put on this
Yeah.
pedestal and it's
Mhm.
about connection. And it's just as much, if not more, about the connection with the sisters as it
Yeah.
is with this one person. Like it's about connection.
Which again, I'm bringing everything back to Pride and Prejudice, but
Bring it all
that is why I'm
back.
here. But like literally that's actually one of the things about Austen, her beliefs about love was that love is not just between two people. I will go in actually, you know what? Is it okay if I go into a
Yeah,
little bit
let's do
of a
it.
history thing? So the time that she was writing was the time around the time when novels were really taking off as a concept and as a genre, like before people were reading mainly it's like religious work. Like now novels as like, hey, these are stories about real people and these are probably stories about people like me. Like that concept is taking off. And a lot of these romance novels in particular were very fanciful. They were very much like, oh, these two destined to be together, and like maybe their parents don't want them to be together, or this is happening, but they're gonna fight all the thing. They're gonna be together, and it's this big, huge ideas of love.
It's like Wuthering Heights.
Kind
It's
of
like this,
Wuthering
like,
Heights, yeah, kind of like that. I haven't read Wuthering Heights, but from what I know, but Austen's character, what she believed love was a force in which helped us to grow and better ourselves. And love and marriage in particular brought not just two people together, but two families together. It was about connection. It was about all the people around us coming together. And she also is just very practical about love. And that's why I was saying that she like zooms out on the like love confession because she's not interested in just that. She's interested in like the inner workings of human mind. And she's interested in like, she honestly, there's a lot of examples in the story where she's making fun of like those really fanciful romance writers of her time. Like she's straight up like mocking them. Um, but it's just really cool. Like this movie, even I don't necessarily think this was all intentional, but it's so well written that it honors that spirit and it honors that theme. And like and like I love that there's a connection between like the queer community and Austen, where we're like, yeah, it's not just about these two people. Like there are people, your whole family are all around you, and we're all connecting with each other.
that's really cool. I didn't know that about Austen. It's like a really, really nice way to see her works.
Yeah, it's incredibly interesting. Um, I was also going to say I love the soundtrack of the movie, especially I forget what the song is in that last scene, but I was like, it's
Muna. It's sometimes a
of course
cover of
it's
sometimes a
Muda.
Britney Spears Muna. I know, I'm obsessed with that song too. I've been listening to
Um,
it
I
for
love
a while.
Muda. I was like, excellent choices all around. Um,
I don't know the rest of the songs, but I did like that they have like a harpsichord
mm,
beat that plays a lot, and it's a harpsichord, instrument
mhm.
with a more modern beat with like a little bit of bass to it.
Oh,
And
that's so cute.
yeah, they play it a lot. And I was like, that's a great way to tie into this like 1800s theme. And I like it a lot more than like Bridgerton, which takes modern songs and makes it classical. I was like, I
Yeah,
actually like that it takes like an older instrument sound and
yeah,
makes it modern. Like I prefer that than the
I
reverse.
do. Because sometimes the Bridgerton version is kind of just awkward because like the
Yeah.
songs, I was like, it doesn't have that fullness to it, and that quality of this, where it's
Yeah.
like they're taking something that's old and tying it to the new.
Yeah. I don't know anything else about the soundtrack though, besides that one
I
song.
I forget the others, but I just remembered like I had that as a note that I was like the whole time I was just enjoying the music of the story. Um, but yeah, I love the ending. I love it is so generally just them connecting, and I really hope that they get together. I hope that they like I love them. I hope they get together, and I love that it ends with the whole family dancing on the
Yeah.
pier.
Yeah. It was a good ending.
But I was just gonna say that the script is so funny and charming and witty. Like it is such a very cleverly written where it's like full of these little jokes and quips, and like the editing matches it all the way through, and it has this like beautiful translation of like this book into like it's a completely different world, it's a completely different story, but it carries the spirit so well. And it's also just really like I have like it's really witty, and I was like, yeah, it is very witty, and I think that is such a Jane Austen thing.
Yeah. I think, like I've said, it works well as a translation, but if you never read Pride and
Yeah.
Prejudice, like I haven't, like you can enjoy it just as a story as
Hmm.
well.
I think I have definitely watched it. I think the first time I watched it was without knowing that it was a Pride and Prejudice thing. So I have seen it as an adaptation. I've seen it as not an adaptation, and I have loved it both times. And I'm like, even if people are not into Pride and Prejudice, like it's a great movie. It is a super charming, super sweet, super sincere movie. and I just want more people to see it.
Yeah. Do you want to discuss any like other Jane Austen adaptations?
Oh, briefly, yes. Let's talk about the Lizzie Bennet Diaries because I brought that up. Like the two most famous ones I think are the 1995 BBC TV series, which is pretty much a line by line adaptation, more or less. The 2005 Keira Knightley one, which is gorgeous, absolutely beautifully made. It kind of has to cut things in like short things. As I said, it takes shortcuts sometimes just to make the plot fit. But gorgeous. And then we have Lizzie Bennet Diaries, which is definitely absolutely top two, top three favorite adaptations for me. So Lizzie Bennet Diaries is also a modern adaptation, and it is a YouTube vlog series told from the point of view of Lizzie Bennet as she recounts the story, recounts the year of her life, like as she's living through the year of the story of her and her sisters and this new guy who comes to town, who is Bing Lee.
That's hilarious.
It's really cute. Um, I think that's another really brilliant adaptation because not only does it, again, do very similar things of translating stuff to modern times, but it understands the spirit of the books. Like it very much understands the characters, their values, and Lizzie in that story, I think she's always right. Like she's a master student of mass communications, I believe. So she is like, she just believes she's an expert on people. Like she's just like, I got this, I know people, I'm correct. Anyway, so it's like it both very much understands the characters, but it also, I think, translating it really well because it involves a lot of technology. Like the story, there's literally the vlogs, but then there's actually like side vlog channels which follow other characters. And they also had Twitter profiles for the characters, and they had a website for the
Oh, wow.
characters. And like, so it was this whole multimedia universe of like these characters living and interacting. And so it translated it in the way of being like societal standards of Regency era to like online era. Like she's not,
Mhm.
she like a
Of like
huge,
status and popularity and
yeah.
followings and stuff.
And like, so for example, like she's not just saying her thoughts about Darcy to her sister, she's saying it to thousands of people. And it's like he finds the videos eventually and sees all the things that she has said about him. Like it brings in a whole new element of both that prejudice and what that prejudice does, and also the characters confronting it with each other. And like later on in the story, Lizzie has to confront the fact that she's like, just because I'm smart, like, doesn't mean I know people. Like, I put people in these boxes and I'm wrong, and like, I don't know what to do here. Like, it's it expands the world so much and it makes it very modern, um, while also like understanding how those social things play and how it would play today.
Yeah, I think that's really important in like translating something. It's like making making the audience care
Yeah.
and saying things in a way that help them understand and care.
Mhm.
That's really cool.
It's such a good adaptation. And I love it because like these are two modern adaptations that do it in completely different ways. And I always say that like Lizzie Bennet Diaries understands it, explores it through the technology point of view, and this one understands it through like the societal structure point of view. But like they're both really incredible adaptations. And like there's lots of really good adaptations. There's some that are like not so great adaptations. But I think if you get the spirit, you do a good job.
Yeah. I thought it was funny. They're like, it's one of my like top favorite adaptations. I was like, oh yeah, this has been adapted a lot. Like so many adaptations.
I
I
did
did
make
look.
a Oh yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say one thing I did like in the movie Fire Island is Aaron finds Charlie's Instagram and like that, and then they start like, like talking about him, and I'm like, I like how that, that's like equivalent of us like, us standing someone is us finding an
Yeah,
Instagram. But yeah, I forgot to mention that earlier.
that's so true. Also, I just thought it was really funny. Like when they meet Charlie for the first time, they're like walking away, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a doctor," and Ariel like screams at him, like cover her mouth. Like it's
Yeah.
just such a funny moment.
They had another line which
I
would
don't
be
want to
like, it's
gasp
just
again,
like
but like
having health insurance again.
like it's such a Mrs. like it's a Mrs. Bennet character. Like it was so well done.
Yeah, they really do. She captures that character. I mean, a lot of them capture the essence of all the characters are playing, but she was a good Mrs. Bennet of
She
like
was
that
Rose.
anxiety of her like kids and yeah.
That excitement for them,
Yeah.
like it's really good. So two adaptations I really love. I definitely there's more, but I think these two really get at the spirit, which it doesn't have to be one to one. It doesn't have to be like like we think like an adaptation is being like making everything exactly the same. Like you can completely change the story, but if you understand why that story was being told, then you can do a good adaptation.
Yeah. So yeah, let's do our wrap-up questions. Do you have any thoughts on how they do? So for me, whenever I'm like, I've done a lot of like reading screenplays. I've been like a reader for film festivals. And something I think screenwriters fail at a lot if you're newer is like making the audience care. Actually, writers as well, writers and screenwriters, is making an audience care.
Mhm.
And you're reading a story and you're like, okay, so what? Like, why is this
Mhm.
important? Like, so I guess my question is, when I watched this film, I was like, I can't identify with this story in any kind of way, but I'm very invested in it and I care.
Mhm.
Not that you have to identify to be invested, but I guess I would love to like chat a bit about like how he does the so what really well. Like how he tells a story that makes us very entertained and invested,
Mhm.
whether you're in the gay community or not.
Mhm. Um, I like that question. I kind of want to again recap it with the so what of the Pride and Prejudice book, which is like, why is this a story that's lasted so long? And I think because it's a very, again, it's not an enemies to lovers book. It is these two characters are going to grow and change because of each other. And after all that time, they're going to find that they actually do match pretty well. And I think that is a very interesting story because it's about actual human nature. And I think for this story, it is also similarly about human nature. It is about that human desire to care for and protect your friends and to be with your friends. And like, I think, and like, it is also about all this love stories and all, but at the end of the day, like, it's about Noah and Howie and like, he loves his friend and like, what would he not do for his friend?
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's like a like there's like a specificity. It's not just about human nature and even like this big picture about friends. It's like very particular aspects of human nature and personality. And
Mhm.
something I think when you're storytelling, it's important to be incredibly specific and sometimes narrow with what you're talking about. And this is like a tenet of improv is like when you make a distinct choice, it actually opens up more opportunities than to
Mhm.
keeping things broad. And I see a lot of times on TV, they have such broad characters that are so like defined in a very like broad way. And I
Mhm.
feel like these characters have a lot of specific details and personality traits
Yes.
that allow us to get rooted in it enough that we can explore how it plays out over this week.
Yeah. It feels it's so focused in. And like they're fully developed characters and we see it in the script and then the like interaction with each other and their wardrobe. Like there's everything where they feel very fully lived in. And that helps to like buy in essentially. But also like we mentioned earlier that like you have to give a character a want. And the want here is very simpler that he wants Howie to hook up so he can hook up. And as silly as that may sound, that's a want. And you can write a story about anything as long as you give a character a desire.
And it doesn't have to be complex. It can be
It doesn't have to be
easy. People
complex.
go way too big, and it's like, no, a very small, self-imposed want is good enough.
Hmm. So in I love the show One Piece. And in the show One Piece, like basically the brother of the main character is about to be executed by the government. So everyone's coming to rush to save him. And there is a giant. And the giant's reason for wanting to save the brother is that the brother gave him a hat. But they take 2 minutes out of the story to show how the hat, like this poor giant is so big he can't fit in any houses, he can't protect himself from the sun or the rain, and so the hat shaded him and protected him from the sun and the rain and the snow and all, and that's why he wants to save the brother. And I was like, it does not have to be complicated. It is not like I love that so much because it was such a simple want. It was such a simple backstory. And I was like, you don't have to make characters complicated. You don't have to like a thing, but you have to just give them a little bit of that like sincerity, that little bit
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
okay, this is
And
why it matters
well-rounded.
to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Next question.
Sure.
What does security look like in today's world?
Mhm. Because I think I came up with that question. It's because like I put that question because I was like, yeah, we all are kind of in that generation where we're like, we can't buy property.
I
Let us
think it's
just
all
look at.
true though. I actually think relationship status, well, first of all, a job, which a lot of people
Mhm.
don't have,
Mhm.
but even relationship status, like not for money reasons, but just the status of being with
Mhm.
someone and
Yeah,
definitely marriage. Like the marriage
yeah,
is definitely informed. I think all of those are still security things in today's world. Like they're not much different, really.
this is true. I think but from my perspective of like a Gen Z, like I feel like security for us is like always say that we're like, we wish we had an apartment. We wish our friends lived nearby. Maybe if we had like a pet or plants, like that's our, like we like that's
I say
our
this with like
lower
my big fake plant right here.
right. Like that's our level of standard here. We just want like a plants, maybe a day off.
I feel very well. I have like one of those things. I guess I have two of those things. I got an apartment, I got a plant.
Like it's like I think having a place to live and maybe having a job, like that would
Yeah.
be people would feel pretty secure. Would feel like okay, at least my life feels more together. Maybe that's just me as like my perception of the Gen Z, but like it's our items of desire, like the things that we can actually get, are so much more limited that now we're like, oh, like yeah, it's not necessarily maybe the same things that they used to be.
Yeah. I like that you say friends too, because I don't think that's something that millennials have thought about. But I'm at the age where I have a lot of friends who've moved away from their place since college and now are moving back to their hometowns for the first time in over a decade. And it's like, it's really weird to see. And I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, you do get to a point where you're like, oh, I've gone like a decade or more without a consistent, strong community. And I miss that. And I want that for myself in the long run. I don't know if it's a post-COVID thing.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
definitely we have been deprived of community as
yeah.
Americans.
I do want to say too about this film, I'm so happy that it was a COVID-less film.
Mm.
Well, I think he conceived of the concept before COVID. It was like in production and then, it was maybe optioned by Mubi and then Mubi went under. Like it's been in the works for a while, but it
Mhm.
doesn't time frame itself around COVID at all. And I
Yeah,
appreciated that because it was timeless to me in that sense.
very timeless. I think it is a story that like they could have easily put this in any decade at Fire Island and it would still work.
Yeah. Next question. Do you want to do how we can we unlearn biases this week?
Mm. Yeah, so as again, another question by me, which I put because this whole story is about prejudices, and there is prejudices that are very obvious to us, like Cooper and the others being racist, and there's even sometimes prejudices that we're not aware of. And I think it's always important to be unlearning biases. I I would have to look up the name of it, but actually, if you look it up, Harvard has this website where you can take tests to test your biases, which is really fun. It's kind of like it'll give you a test. So like say you're like, how biased am I against skin color? And it makes you click on these pictures and like somehow it like analyzes your bias. And so I took that one time and I was like, oh, you would be surprised, or maybe I was surprised, but other people would not be, that I do have a bias against certain skin colors. And so I would really recommend people go check out that website and go check out your biases.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things I've been learning as I've gotten older that I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was an internalized bias, and I've like had to work on it and be proactive.
Mm,
Um, I think, something that stood out to me in the movie, but also in the book, is like there's a lot of affirmation of bias. Like for
mm,
instance, like when like Noah doesn't like Will, but then Dex is talking to him and telling him things and like affirming that Will
mm,
isn't a good guy. And I have this idea that we only kind of take in the information that we are like perceiving in that moment with
Mhm.
our own eyes. Like it's like if you're looking at a scene, it's a lot of
Mhm.
things happening, but we're only taking in what we're taking in. And so
Yeah.
I guess my way of unlearning biases this week would be like to try and notice things that we wouldn't necessarily normally perceive
Yeah.
in our day and see what else we see.
Yeah. We definitely all have confirmation bias for
Yeah.
sure. I think biases, and like we obviously take biases as like race or sex or gender, but like it also is like it is money, it is also intellectuality, and it's also education, and it is
Also
ability, and
social
it
and class still too.
social and class. A big one is body mass. Like
Mm.
obviously there's a lot of fat phobia, like, and I think I definitely sometimes it's important to check in, and definitely a few of these I think I'm like, oh, I gotta check in on these, that I'm like, if I think I'm like, oh, that person is less than me for this reason, I'm like, wait, why do I think that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Next question. What would your Pride and Prejudice adaptation look like?
um I've always thought for the longest time that I would do like a Indian Pride and Prejudice, which has been done. Um,
Like the
which is
movie?
yeah, for like Bride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
Um, and there's also I think a book version, book Indian Pride and Prejudice too. Um, but I feel like I would do more of a Gen Z one. I would want to kind of take it into today's world, not today's world, but my world of today, and include a little bit of social media and dating apps and maybe living in urban areas, city areas, because that's where I live. And I would kind of want to take that angle on it.
Nice. I think I've thought about like a Pride and Prejudice adaptation and or a Little Women adaptation because they're both about a family of girls. But I've always thought about like a modern day set in New York kind of thing. And I know there is a book that's an
Mm.
adaptation of that. But yeah, like I feel like just what it would be like to be like five girls living in the 2020s in New York, but
Aw.
still having like that same pressure of needing to get married and
Yeah.
throwing grad school and stuff into it. Like,
I I think something, so again for here, that pressure getting married is the hooking up. And Lizzie Bennet Diaries, it's the pressure to get a job. Like her mom gets mad at her because she turns down Mr. Collins' offer of a job. Like
hilarious.
it it's that means of security change for today's world. And it's fun to see.
Yeah, that's a good point. What is a book or story that made you feel like your experiences were seen on screen? Or what is an adaptation that you want for your own story? I don't know if I have an answer for that actually, to be honest. Like I was just telling you recently about Tell Me Lies, which feels very similar to my college
Mm.
experience, but it's more like the setting rather than that.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if I had an answer, but I know I've had one in the past. Another one that I love is Queen and Slim, not because that is my experience at all, but because I love the portrayal of the South. And that's like,
Oh,
it just feels very true to like my own, like what I've seen of the
yeah.
South and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, those two come to mind.
And if you were to adapt something, what would you want to adapt to your story?
There's a lot of points in my story that I would make a screenplay about for sure.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Do you want to repeat that?
Oh, just saying, yeah,
Oh.
there's a lot of things. There's a lot of like points in my life that I would make a screenplay about.
Yeah.
But no, I'll tell you the most recently. I definitely I studied fashion in Paris for a bit,
Mm.
like left my job in New York to study fashion in Paris, and it was just fun. And so actually this is more like an FU to Emily in Paris, but I've always just wanted to like write a screenplay or short film or even a television series based on that because that was fun.
That's amazing. I definitely would watch that. I think we need an anti-Emily in Paris that's
Yeah.
like actually about being in Paris.
What about you?
Um, I mentioned this earlier, but I think the wedding banquet, which like it, I was expecting a little bit more of a sitcom and it was a little bit more of a drama, but as I said, it was like the most realistic take on like queer people that I've seen, and I was like, yeah, that's real. That's exactly what it is. Um, so that was really cool. And I think also this movie, like, it's not necessarily my experiences that are shown in Fire Island, but this movie deeply touches me and deeply comforts me. Um, if I would do an adaptation, I I kind of want to do an adaptation of us as sisters, like, because we have four sisters, and I think we have Little Women and we have Pride and Prejudice is good. I have no complaints. Little Women is very sad to me, and I want a happy story with sisters.
Well,
So,
it's funny because like I don't like Little Women, and I've always thought more of like the virgin suicides because I like the book and I love the movie. And
oh.
I always felt more akin to that portrayal of sisterhood than Little
Mm.
Women.
Mhm.
But I also like Pride and Prejudice more than Little Women because I'm like, well, the dog was a girl too. So, it felt like
Ah.
being in a family of five girls,
Yes,
even
this
though
is
there was
true.
like only four humans. I was like, there's still definitely like a very
There's a very
present.
there is a fifth sister.
There was definitely a fifth sister growing up.
Um, I think Pride and Prejudice, especially the Keira Knightley version, does a great job of like showing how sisters like and how a big family would react and act. But I think it's just because at least two of the sisters are not very important to the story. So I just want a story that I'm like, no, they're all living their lives. But
Yeah.
like,
I like that you bring that up because I was looking at pictures from that one, and there's a picture of all the five girls just like hanging over a railing, like waiting for
oh
something.
yeah.
And I love that because it does feel like a very like accurate portrayal of sisterhood in a way. And like, yeah,
It's very cute. Um, just as like a side note, like in the story, because I watched the Pride and Prejudice 20th anniversary over in theaters last week, and like it was so funny because like in the opening scene, all the families talking about Mr. Bingley, and Mary's in the background being like, "Who's here?" Like she just completely missed the whole conversation. So she's just like, "Wait, who came to town?" And I was like, "That happens to us all the time."
it
Like,
definitely happens. Someone has just missed the information entirely and has to
it's
get
just
caught up.
I was to get caught up, and it was just like, yeah.
What is a favorite adaptation that you've seen of anything?
Oh my goodness. When we first started this, I was trying to think of adaptations to compare to, and it was hard. Um, if I can't say, as I said already, like these two Lizzie Bennet Diaries and Fire Island, I'm gonna say actually the Lightning Thief musical as an adaptation of the Percy Jackson books.
Is that the one we saw where
Um,
they shot toilet paper into the
yes,
audience? That was
yes.
good.
It is a totally homegrown production, totally zany. There's like three adaptations of Percy Jackson by this point. There's a play, there's a book. No, there's a play, there's a movie, there's a TV show. And the play is the only one that actually captures the spirit of the books. And like it's silly and it changes things and it's very campy, but it completely is Percy Jackson, and that's the best.
Yeah. I think that was like another great example. Like for instance, when they go to Hell, which is just a music shop in like middle of nowhere, LA. I don't know if it was Hades or someone, but I think someone was portrayed with like a dead mouse kind of hat on. And I was like, that was another great like example of like taking a visual element and translating it into the modern day.
Yeah. And like, and as you, because you just mentioned the toilet paper, like in lieu of having water on stage, they shoot toilet paper and they shoot it out into the audience. And you're like, this is so silly. This is so campy, but it's like, it gets that feeling of you're like, oh, I'm getting sprayed with something. And it's just funny. And it's
It
like
has the
so
same visual
incredibly
effect too of like
clever.
something streaming out
It has
into
the
the
same,
audience.
yeah, and that waviness. Like it has the visual effect. And I was like, it's so clever because it understands what the point is. And like not just in that, but just the whole story, it understands the point
Yeah.
more than the book and the TV show.
Yeah.
What would you say your favorite adaptation is?
I don't know if this is an adaptation per se, but I absolutely love HBO's Sharp Objects. It
Ooh.
is one of my favorite television shows. And I love the book, and I'm not even like a big like true crime fan, but I love the way the show interprets the book. And
Mm.
like I don't know, the way the show like does like the visual elements and like
Mhm.
gets the feel of Missouri and stuff like that. I think it's just done really well. And I'm actually currently reading Sharp Objects, and I'm going to do like chapter, like a read along, like a chapter to episode read along of it,
That's
because
so
I think it's
cool.
so good. So
Oh, I love that.
yeah. Do you have a favorite Pride and Prejudice adaptation?
Mm.
If you can only pick one.
Oh, that's so hard. I think typically my answer is the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, but honestly, because I watched this movie recently, I kind of want to say it's Fire Island. Like it is such a deeply comforting and beautiful movie.
I agree. I think so too.
Yes.
Definitely Fire Island.
Do you have a favorite? Have you seen more than one?
No, I've seen this
Okay,
and I've seen the two. Oh no, yeah, I've seen this and I've seen the 2005. So this.
this one. Okay. Um, my last question is to you. So you haven't read Pride and Prejudice. Did this conversation at all make you want to read it now?
It's ironic you say that because in preparation for this, gosh, I always do this. You know what? I feel like I have to go get the book, but I got the book. Wait,
Oh,
hang on. I always show the book. Let me go get the book.
yeah,
I'll be
go
right
for it.
back. In preparation for this, I got the book, Pride and Prejudice,
Oh, that's so pretty.
but I actually got it on audiobook and I was listening to it because I have so much work right now that's just like handwork that I need to
Mm.
like be listening to. Oh, I was doing also a lot of editing this week. And I think I like the audiobook so much more. So this is like the second time
Mm.
I've tried to read it. I was reading it because it was a free book on the iPhone. So when I was in law school, I was
Oh, yeah,
reading
yeah.
Pride and Prejudice on my phone on the way to and from school on the metro. And then I finally got the audiobook and I was like, oh my God, the audiobook actually brings like the whimsy and the snarkiness to life. Because like my biggest impression of Pride and Prejudice was the 2005 movie, which is like super
Mm.
dramatic, like
Mm.
cinematic
It is.
and dramatic. And I'm like, it's a good story, but I'm not, I don't have really the energy to have that many feels.
Yeah.
And now listening to it, I'm like, oh, it's much more like playful and witty and like
It
not
is.
whimsical, but
It's very, and that's exactly what my takeaway was from the beginning, that I was like, it's funny. It's a
yeah,
very funny and kind of like charming book, and
snarky.
and snarky. Like she's a very witty and clever writer, and like it moves along faster than you think, where you're kind of like, oh, it's dragging. Like these old books used to always drag. And it's like, no, it actually kind of moves along, and it's pretty clever.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy I'm listening to it instead of reading it because I
It's
don't
so
think I would have
fun.
gotten it.
Yeah.
The other thing too is I'm 5 hours in. I thought I only had 2 hours to go, and then I looked at it and there's 7 more hours to go, and I
Uh-huh.
don't know what else happens in it because I'm like I've already covered all the major plot points that I remember from the movie. So I'm like, what else happens in these last 7 hours? So
That is so funny. Wait, what part are you on?
I think she's just visiting Charlotte.
Oh, you have a lot more to go.
Okay, there's a lot more to go. Yeah, it's the version that's on Libby. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's
That's
probably
really
several
fun.
versions, but yeah.
That's so fun. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I want more people to understand that it's not a stuffy book. Maybe like the language is a little, or the references are a little complicated, but like it is a clever book, and it has a really surprisingly healthy romance, and it's a reason why it's been classic, why it's lasted so
Um,
long.
And it's weird because people read Persuasion in that way.
Mm.
And even Emma, I think they read both those books in that way, but people don't really interpret Pride and Prejudice in that way, but they're all kind of
Yeah.
like the same tone
Mhm.
almost or similar tones.
It definitely gets the enemies to lovers uh take a lot, and definitely the I love the Keira Knightley, but it definitely is like it is like the cinematic, the period piece movie. And so like yeah, people are like, oh, it's a period piece, it must be boring. It's like, no, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I'm glad to hear it.
Do you have any last takes before we wrap up?
Mm, I don't think I have a last take. I would just say that I love this movie. It is a beautiful, I'm saying this again, it's a charming, very cleverly written movie. I want to thank the directors and the actors, especially Joel Kim Booster, and ask him to write more movies.
That's great. We'll definitely tag him in that.
Please
Tag him in
do.
this.
I
I
need him
think,
to know that we analyze this a lot.
yeah, for sure. I think my last takes are just go support Asian directors, go support Asian screenwriters, go support Asian actors. Like
Yeah.
we've gotten a lot more stories and I want to keep getting stories. So, and not just big things that make it into features, like go see The Wedding Banquet, but there's so many great stories, like short films that are told at film festivals and stuff, and go support them. Like get a ticket to that movie if you can. They're usually cheaper and still a great experience. So
That's so true.
support Asian
artists. Definitely. I say go see The Wedding Banquet, A Nice Indian Boy. Both of those came out recently and both are really good. And give Fire Island a try. If anyone has watched this without ever seeing the movie, this is your cue to go see it. It's a great movie.
Definitely. Anyway, thanks for chatting.
Thank you for chatting. Thank you for having me. And this was really fun.
Of course, I'll see you again soon.
See you again. Bye.
Bye.